Council's order for June 12th. This meeting is being recorded. Will the clerk please take the roll?
Bona.
Here.
Buddington.
Here.
Cohen.
Here.
Irvin. Here. Hopkins.
Here.
LaForest.
Here.
Lamb.
Here.
Moran.
Here.
Wilkinson.
Here.
We have 9 present.
Please stand for the moment of silence. And the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval of the minutes for May 22nd.
Motion to approve?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstain.
Opposed? One abstention. A motion without objection to move paper number 11,673 to the front, requested by the mayor for a guest who did not have to hopefully sit through this whole meeting.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Present the paper first.
Oh, do I need to present the paper first? I do. That would help. Oh, shit. All right. Paper number 11,673, Mayor's Communication number 38, recommending participation in the Massachusetts Property Assessed Clean Energy PACE program. Without objection, file the communication. Mayor, you're on.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the adjustment to the agenda. This is an initiative that was brought to my attention through a conversation with Mass Development, and Julie Cowan from Mass Development is here this evening and is prepared to speak on this and answer any questions the council might have about the program. PACE, the Property Assessed Clean Energy Program, is a state program that was established as part of the governor's energy bill in 2016. The oversight of this is through Mass Development and the Mass Department of Energy Resources, and it's a financing program for owners of commercial, industrial, and nonprofit and multi-unit, and that's 5 units or more, residential properties to make improvements on their properties. So these would be things like energy efficiency upgrades, renewable energy projects, the extension of existing or natural gas lines. This is a project with a 20-year payback financed through a betterment lien on the property that would be assessed by the city, added to the tax bill, and then remitted through that process to Mass Development to settle or to keep the lien in proper balance. The lien remains with the property even if it is sold until it is paid off. It is structured in such a way that it is subsidiary to the city, so the city will always be the first compensated in the case of a lien. This would be the second eligible party in a lien holding. And this is, as a program, really helps to address both economic development and rising energy costs for those participating in the program. There was in your materials an overview. Again, Julie can speak to more specifics if you have any questions. But in addition to introducing this, there is an order to the effect that the City Council authorizes participation, which is the mechanism for entry into this program.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you want her to speak now?
I
or-
invite you up to speak and to accept. And I'm going to close the thing so we don't have.
Great. So thank you very much for accommodating your schedule. I will say that I'm fortified for this meeting, not knowing that the accommodation had been made. I'm so happy to come up here, going to the hot dog ranch, and hopefully the dairy bar will still be open on my way home. I live here in Western Massachusetts, so it's always a pleasure to come up to North Adams. I work with Mass Development. As a little bit of background, Mass Development is the state's economic development and finance agency. So as Mayor Bernard pointed out, this is a program that we hope that the city of North Adams will make available to your property owners. And through my remarks, I'll continue to use the term property owner. Typically, financing is directed towards an operating entity or a real estate holding entity, but because this is structured as a betterment assessment, it is tied to the property, and therefore the property owner has the obligation. So why do we have this? Well, here in Western Massachusetts, I think as compared to Eastern Massachusetts, we can recognize that market values are a bit suppressed for a variety of reasons that I don't know that we need to take the time to discuss. But this is a way for property owners to make important upgrades for energy efficiency and improvement. The mayor outlined a few of the ways that those upgrades can be made. More specifically, access to solar panels, natural gas, geothermal heating. If the load on a roof would not sustain solar panels, then the cost of upgrading that roof may be rolled into the PACE financing. So it gives a property owner significant opportunity to make an investment in existing property stock. And that's an important component in how the statute is written. PACE, as it is in Massachusetts, is not available at this time for new construction, so we are using this as a way to encourage investment in the existing properties that are here to enhance the communities and neighborhoods of the Commonwealth. As the mayor mentioned, it was passed by statute in August of 2016, fiscal year 2017. And that's important to note because once the program is launched, which we expect by August 1st of this summer, it means that property owners who have already started to make improvements in their properties after August of 2016 will be eligible for reimbursement for those expenses as they are rolled into the PACE loan. So those property owners, your taxpayers that have already started to make improvements, they'll be able to have that reimbursement made to them. And the PACE financing will be 100% of the expenses that are deemed eligible. Mass Development is the administrator for the program. We work in concert with our colleagues at the Department of Energy Resources, who are the technical advisors. They are the subject matter experts in energy consumption and reduction. So we would be asking them to review applications for a PACE loan, which would be structured as a betterment assessment, as the mayor pointed out. Now, the reason that I'm here today is not to bore you with the technical aspects of the loan, but to tell you that we need your approval to opt into this program. The reason is that because it is structured as a betterment assessment, it must be billed to the property owner as a line item on the tax bill. So I'm thinking that a concern that a municipality would have is, will you be obligated to forward a payment that you have not collected? The answer is no. You will only remit payments that have been made by the property owner. You, as the municipality, will never be responsible for collecting on a PACE loan. That is not, it is not as the function of the municipality. You are simply the collection point and the conduit to then send the payment to Mass Development. Okay? The mayor mentioned a few different properties that are eligible for PACE loans, commercial and industrial, manufacturing buildings, but as well as office buildings, multi-unit families of 5 or more, which make up the great majority of the properties here in Western Massachusetts. Apartment complexes especially, large consumers of energy. And so what types of improvements? I'd mentioned a few of them. I'll also mention that boilers, furnaces, HVAC systems, insulation, air sealing, energy management systems, solar hot water, renewable energy, those are all pieces that would be eligible for PACE financing. Lastly, the mayor mentioned that the lien stays with the property. So there are many properties and businesses here in Western Massachusetts that are owned by people that are considering retirement, and they may not want or be ready to retire or sell their business at the moment, and yet be looking at their property and be considering making improvements. And they may be hesitant to make those improvements given that the retirement is somewhat on the horizon. With the PACE loan, this is a good way for them to take advantage of making those property improvements without giving them a long-term obligation. Because the lien stays with the property, presumably the benefit to the then buyer of the business or the property will gain the benefit. So there's no obligation or settling up of the mortgage like you would typically have on a property because it's set as a lien. So I've given you a whole boat of information here. I wanted to ask you if you have any questions for me regarding it, how it's implemented, anything like that, any examples of properties?
Counselor Buddington, and just keep in mind, we still are on the mayor's communications, so we will be also voting on the next paper, so, which is fine. You can ask the questions now. I just want to remind you that at this point, we won't be making the motion to accept this. That'll be on the next paper.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah, this seems like an unusual arrangement. One question which may not quite be in your ballpark, but if somebody misses, if they don't pay the lien part of their tax bill, are they then delinquent on their taxes generally, or is that a separable issue?
Are you asking me analytically or by legal obligation?
Legally.
Legally, no. No, the municipality is always the priority lien holder, so there's no acceleration of that priority lien, the taxes that are due to the city. There's no way if they would become delinquent on the PACE loan that we'd be able to step up or step in front of the city. Does that answer your question?
Not quite. I'm
Okay.
just- You know, the city has procedures by which we consider a property to be delinquent, and perhaps this is more a question for our own city officials. But if somebody paid their property taxes but not the lien, would the city be then in a position to, or would the city be required to consider their taxes delinquent?
No. No, it would then be viewed similar to a mortgage, just if someone were not paying their mortgage obligation. In no way would the city need to step in.
Okay.
Yes, Counselor Lamb.
I'm just curious on how many other communities in this particular region have signed on so far?
I'm a bit competitive, Councilor Lamb, and I felt it was really important for Western Mass to have it. So there are 10 communities out of the 351 in the Commonwealth, and 6 of them are in Western Massachusetts. Pittsfield has opted in, Greenfield, Wendell, West Springfield, Northampton. Am I missing one? Am I only at 5? Yes. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, Counselor Harvey.
So if someone was interested in doing this, I guess it's basically a loan, right? So they
It
would
is a
be
loan.
taking out a loan. And so do you know what the financing percentage rate is, basically? Is there a range? Is it a low rate?
That's a great question. So PACE is different in each state in which it is operational. There are some states like New York where it is a closed market. There's only one lender that provides with that, and without competition, the rates are a bit higher. They tend to be higher than a typical mortgage. In the states where there is a limited market, a few lenders, the rates tend to be a bit lower and market-driven. And when there's an open market, which is how it is written within the Commonwealth, we anticipate that they'll be in line and based on the credit worthiness of the borrower. So it'll be very similar to what are conventional mortgage rates. So that's by way of saying I don't have an interest rate for you, but it'll be dependent on the worthiness of the borrower.
Okay. And if someone was interested, what would be the easiest way for them to find out information and details about
You
it?
could have them contact me. I have a stack of business cards, and I'm happy to have them call me and walk through the process for it.
Counselor Buddington
Um,
and
I-
Counselor LaForest.
I'm curious about the design of this because it seems to be effectively a mortgage with a claim on the property. Why would a lender prefer this over a mortgage?
That's a great question. Well, for one, it is structured based on the useful life of the asset. And I hate to use accounting terms here, but that's the appropriate one. So the term of the loan would be matched up with the useful life. And so it may be that the length of time that a borrower has to repay the PACE loan may be a bit longer than a conventional mortgage lender would be willing to give on a commercial note. oftentimes commercial mortgages have a 5-year note or a 10-year note where they're set to be repriced. That's not how this would be structured. So for the borrower, there's a bit more certainty on what their interest rate would be. For the lender, if there is an existing mortgage on the property, because this loan is tied to the energy efficiency gains based on this investment and completely separate from any value of the property, it means that the banks don't have to consider any sort of regulatory restrictions on a loan-to-value basis. And I'm sorry to use the banking jargon, but I'll use some hard numbers to walk you through the example. If a business were to buy a property today, typically a bank would be allowed to lend up to 80% of the loan to value. The PACE loan, there is no consideration for the value of the real estate. The PACE consideration is the improvements that are to be made. Will there be a net benefit in the cost offsetting the debt service on the PACE loan? So completely separate. So it gives the lenders a bit more flexibility to give their borrowers the ability to make improvements. And for the borrower, it means they can tap into a source of financing that is not tied to a market value for the property.
Okay.
Does that answer?
That does make sense. Thank you.
Councilor
So,
LaForest, yeah.
correct me if I'm wrong. So, a borrower would reach out to a private financial institution to procure funding, to procure a loan?
Well, we are sourcing the lenders. We're going out to the local banks, to the regional banks to say, we will be offering PACE loans. Is this a type of loan that you'd be interested in borrowing, offering to the community?
Okay, and so the interest rate, though, would be a fair market interest rate on that loan, and rather than a shorter period of time for a typical loan for upgrades or, you know, a business loan, that interest rate would then be teased out over or offered out over up to 20 years as opposed to 5 or 6?
Potentially, yes.
And the private financial institutions through PACE earn this profit and not the state?
We are the state or Mass Development is not lending the money. So the bank is lending the money. So presumably they are entitled to a return on the loan that they're providing to the property owner.
This reminds me of my student loans, but I don't mean any disrespect to you personally.
I didn't take any.
You know, I would think of my first house we did through a first-time home buyer's loan through the community development office, but it was with a local bank, but it was a program set up through, I think, the state at the time. So while I think it just makes it a little easier and some of the logistics are just different than if you just went through a bank itself. So you are still doing it through the banks, the banks that have agreed. Community development, when we had North Adams Community Development Corporation, they gave out loans, but they were through the local banks. So they were basically the network that connected the businesses. So that's how I see it.
I
you know.
understand, but
Yeah.
we're offering what would otherwise be a 5 or 6 year loan with payments out over 20 years at a fair market interest rate, which seems...
Well, a couple of pieces to that, and I'm not arguing, and I'm just giving you the
if
facts
you
to
have
make
a,
decisions. Yes.
know,
The one is that typically, if a property owner were to go to the bank and ask for a home equity loan, then the amount of equity that property owner could access is limited by the value of the property.
Sure, right.
This loan, the PACE loan, gives the property owner the ability to make, let's say, $100,000 investment in an apartment building, where if the payment obligation, and I'm going to use hard numbers, please don't check my math on this, but just for the scenario to walk you through it, if the payment obligation for that $100,000 every year is $10,000, but the analysis that justified the PACE loan shows that they'll be saving $11,000. There's a $1,000 gain to the property owner. That's the incentive. That has nothing to do with the value of the property. So in an environment where we are suffering from depressed market values, it's a way for that property owner to make important energy efficiency upgrades that they might never be able to access within their lifetime because the property values are going up so slowly. That's a great question, though.
Counselor Wilkinson.
Just out of curiosity, when you place the loan on the mortgage on the property, what position does it take? If I say I have a first mortgage out already, I have an equity line, so that's basically a second place mortgage, and somebody gets one of these loans, you are in third place?
No, we are a priority lien. We're behind the municipality.
Okay,
So we would need lender consent.
You need letter of consent. So I'm going to upgrade, I'm going to put solar panels on my roof, and it's going to cost me $40,000. So we get the PACE loan, $40,000. You're now in first place, all right, in front of my first mortgage, because the lender has to consent.
That's correct.
And I want to do something else with the house. I want to get an equity line, but I can't, because even though yours isn't taking up any equity in the home, you're disallowing me to use the remaining equity because the bank's not going to give me the loan.
I don't believe that to be the case.
I believe, I work in the banking world, and that would be the case.
Well, I'm with respect, sir, I'm a commercial lender by training. I've spent 18 years,
Okay.
and it is a priority lien, so it would be similar to the tax obligation that the city would put on the property.
Correct. But
It is
doesn't
done
that
as a
take all my
betterment
equity?
assessment.
Does-
It doesn't, it's
does
not
not
factored
take-
on the, it is not factored on the equity at all. So we would need lender consent because we are placing a lien on it,
I
but there's
understand
no
that. You're asking me-
accelerating,
Asking them to take a secondary position.
which they have anyway, technically, to the
Wouldn't if they didn't
municipality.
have your loan on there.
Well, they have a first mortgage, but they don't have a priority lien. Mortgages never have a priority lien against municipal
I
taxation.
understand what you're saying, but there's such a small percentage of people in Massachusetts that have priority liens on their property that most of the people would not be familiar with that.
Well, all people that own property do have a priority lien when they have a tax obligation. Taxes are a priority lien, and this would be similar in a betterment assessment, so therefore it
In
is
your world, too. If you brought that concept out to the general public, people would not know what you're talking about.
fair enough. So that's my job to educate them.
Yes, that's your job,
yes,
does it?
yes.
But the bottom line is, your loan still steals their equity capacity because, say it's $40,000, the number I made up with,
Mm-hmm.
you have the primary lien on the property. I have a first mortgage on the property already, which now is secondary. And all of a sudden, I want to go out and take an equity loan on my house, and I can't because there isn't any, depending upon the value of the property.
It is not tied to the value of the property. It is not a mortgage.
Loan
It
is
is a
not tied to the value of the property.
Is not.
However, if I'm looking for an equity loan from a regular bank, there's definitely a thing about equity on the, you're stealing my equity.
For one, I don't want to use the term stealing, but it isn't, in fact, tapping into the equity. It is a betterment assessment.
Use the word stealing. I'm
No,
sorry.
I hear you, but we are not accessing the equity in the property whatsoever. It is exactly
You're using
like
up
a
my
tax.
equity.
Well, however, whatever word choice we use, it is not, in fact, accessing. It is not tied to the equity whatsoever. It is a priority lien, exactly like taxes are, and just like any sort of mortgage
Counselor
obligation that
Wilkinson,
are on
We
there.
got other people with their hands up.
I'm
over
So-
there,
sorry.
So,
You're right.
Counselor Harpen and then Counselor Cohen.
Okay. I actually think this is a good thing. I think it's a great way to increase values of our houses in the city, decrease the expenses to, commercial buildings or landlords or whatever, the expenses of energy, reduce our energy footprint. There's a lot of good value here. As far as the financing goes and how it affects things, I don't know the complications to that, but I think having it available to someone to make that choice is probably a good thing for the city to do. So, that's where I stand.
Counselor Cohen?
I'm sure that the state has some benchmarks that they need to meet in as well for energy consumption and reducing our carbon footprint. So as long as this is something that's a choice, it's an option for the people that are looking to upgrade and make some really good investments on their properties, I'm also going to support you as well. So.
Thank you.
I think both of you mentioned, I wrote down here sort of explanation. It's another option. It's an
Yeah,
option.
it's an option.
It's not something that I think if we
It's not
pass this,
mandated.
it's a requirement that people have to do. I think there are many different kind of loans and funding options that are out there, and some are better than others, and some fit different property investors better than others. I think this is something that property owners would definitely need to be educated more. I think there's nothing wrong with, again, handing someone your business card and having them explain it. I don't see this as, it's a technique to use our funding, but this is the option, and, the options in other banks may be better. They may not have those bank options, but yet this may open up. Councilor Lamb.
So, sort of along the same lines of what the chair was just saying and what Councilor Harpin said, I've spoken to a few commercial property owners about this specifically, and they're folks that would have loved to do some renewable energy work on their buildings to date, but there wasn't an appropriate mechanism. At one point, they looked at like the Solar City programs, but just the way that those work didn't really work out for their needs. But something along these lines does. So it is an option that they currently don't have. And so this would be opening a door to them that if they wanted to investigate it further, they would at least have that opportunity.
Councilor Cohen.
I don't know if it was mentioned, I'm sorry if I missed that. Local banks are participating in this as well. Are they going to have some of the profit from this as well?
We're
or-
inviting them in.
Okay.
It will be their choice. There's no obligation for a lender to participate. Thank you.
Councilor Buddington, and then Councilor LaForest.
Just an unrelated question. I'm a little surprised that natural gas is included, because it seems to otherwise focus on conservation and renewables. And I believe there's been some rhetoric, at least from the gas company, that they foresee future limits in supply, so that, they wanted to expand the pipeline. Can you explain why natural gas is included in this loan program?
Sure, thank you. I'm glad that you're asking the question. For one, I think about my drive here through the hill towns. There are homes that do utilize natural gas now, but they're relegated to propane tank use. And there would be a way for them to have a net reduction in their own expenses by simply tapping into the natural gas line that's near to their home. So that, in part, is why we wanted to do it. The other is that for some communities in Western Mass and elsewhere, the cheapest source of heat for them is natural gas. And so what we wanted to do is to make a statement as a state that renewables are important to us, that we recognize that we must address our energy consumption, and yet we didn't want to put out what we felt was a limited offering to property owners. We wanted to give property owners a broader option to make the best choice for their circumstance and for their property. So thank you for that.
Councilor LaForest.
So, just a quick follow-up to Councilor Cohen's question. So local lenders would be invited to participate in the PACE program, but in their absence, who would the lenders be?
Well, there are a number of lenders throughout the country and the states that currently offer PACE that would be interested in coming into Massachusetts. As a former commercial lender, any way that I can get more of the relationship with my customer, I'm hoping that my bank will offer. So thinking about the banks in the area, we've already had preliminary discussions with them to say that PACE is coming, that it's a new type of funding mechanism for them, but it will be the decision of the bank, and whether they've got the resources internally to understand what a PACE loan is, how to analyze the investment return and the renewable credits, if they're appropriate. It really comes down to their business needs. So we're going to allow the banks to make their decision.
Go ahead.
So I know this isn't a Senate hearing, and you haven't been subpoenaed, and I don't want to beat up on you. So
You're not beating up on me.
My
As
understanding.
long as I don't miss the dairy bar, we're
Okay,
good.
All right. You'll get your soft serve, I promise.
Good, thank you.
So there is an incentive for large national lenders to participate in this program because individuals and property owners, commercial developers who are unable to procure a loan for, let's again say 5 or 6 years at a fair market interest rate are now able to participate in this program with a lender who's willing to give them the same interest rate out over 20 years?
Well, I think we've conflated a few things.
What I'm looking
Yes.
for you to tell
No,
me is that
thank you. I'm
this
glad.
This is a good opportunity for small developers in rural communities to develop their properties without getting gouged by large national banks. That's, I guess, what I'm asking.
I would agree 90% of what you said. So what I will do is I will tweak what you said
Sure.
to say not to develop, but to improve their properties.
Okay.
Okay, for number one, because it's about existing property stock. And I would suggest to you that every bank, whether it is a small bank or a large bank, has a profit motivation, unless it's a mutual savings. And so it comes down to a business decision. I'm sure that when we talk to Charlie O'Brien at Adams Community Bank, who I've known for a long time, that he will look hard at this, that he will look at his customer base, he'll look at the community and say, this region needs this type of loan. And then he will talk with his internal staff to say, do we have the expertise? Can we find someone that understands how to look at the energy savings that a type of loan will do?
And so my hope is that they would come up with a mutually beneficial interest rate
Absolutely.
on the low end versus 17% out of a large
I'm not going to be
national-
setting the
Yeah,
interest
no,
rates,
I
but
know
your
you
concern
can't.
is fair that there would be something that would be atypical. But the reason that we structured it as an open market is we wanted it to be competitively driven. We wanted to be where banks and lenders are coming into Massachusetts saying, we want to provide these loans. And so we felt that the more lenders that we made available to property owners would drive down the interest rates. I think the scenario that you're talking about is when there are fewer lenders and they are able to set the rates at a much higher interest level.
Thank
Great
you.
question.
Counselor Lamb and Counselor Buddington.
Just sort of in response to that too, I would say that, if they were to have those rates at such a high level, that would be prohibitive for anybody to enter the program anyway. So I don't know that if it was extreme, that it wouldn't look as attractive as it does otherwise.
But we know from recent bubbles in our country that that hasn't stopped individuals from taking out loans they couldn't necessarily afford to repay. That's my concern.
Which I think is why the education piece is so imperative for the banks to have.
If I may, I know that you have someone step in with another comment, but to address that concern, the analytics of the PACE eligibility, if the interest rate is so high and the payment obligation is so high, then it won't be eligible for PACE. So therefore, any of the lenders are going to have to be competitive.
That's what I've been waiting for you to
Okay,
say.
well, I buried the headline.
Thank
I
you.
apologize.
Counselor Buddington?
In the case that a property is taken for back taxes, it goes through the whole process, would the city be responsible for paying off this?
No. No.
All right, and any other counselors at this time? Again, we do have another paper, so if the public will wait if they have questions to, we actually get to the formal motion. I guess the only other question I had, and again, I see this, it's an option. It's nothing that the city is saying is required of businesses, of investments. I guess one question, and I think I know the answer. You have multi-unit 5 or more, or residents of 5 units or more. So if a real estate owner owned 3 houses on one street and they were all 4 units, it doesn't matter, they can't account for this.
Unfortunately, no. And the reason is that they are eligible for residential programs.
Okay.
With commercial PACE, that we have to set the limit so that it doesn't overlap with existing programs. But
Yep.
thank you for that.
And because the 5 units, while we do have many in our city, it obviously limits also a lot of some of our bigger units too. And then, is there a cap on like how much, I guess it probably comes down to the lenders of how much a community can be loaned as a
As
whole?
many property owners in North Adams that would like to do PACE loans will do.
Just one more question here.
Yes, go ahead, Counselor Cohen.
Just to be clear, so the municipality administratively would only be responsible for collection of the monies and not for sending out notes, letting them know that they haven't paid.
No, and I'll correct what you've suggested just slightly. The municipality is responsible for adding a line item on the tax bill, and then as the payments come in, the obligation then is to remit the payment to Mass Development. Beyond that, if the if the loan were to go into arrears, any sort of collection activity would be done by Mass Development or a third party.
So the
but never
payment would be
municipal-
done by one payment and then split administratively internally?
I'm going to defer
checks.
to the staff
Okay.
for the city to determine whether
Choice.
whether technically, if it's one check or multiple checks. I don't know. I don't know
Okay,
your
okay.
systems, but conceptually, it would be one payment remitted to Mass Development.
Counselor
Thank you.
Wilkinson and Counselor LaForest.
Just out of curiosity, since the city now has the obligation to collect the money and reimburse whomever, is there any stipend or anything paid to the city for the additional work caused by having to go through the extra work to collect this money and pass it on?
There isn't. I am.
Out of the goodness of our heart.
Well, yes, in part, not to be flippant, but yes, in part because the property values would be improved by accessing this program. If the administrative
agree with
burden.
you on that, but that's okay.
Okay.
Counselor Wilson,
Well,
please.
we are allowed to disagree. I would suggest that if administratively the burden of adding the line item to the tax bill and then remitting the payment to Mass Development or our designee were to become so great, then of course we would be willing to enter into discussion with the mayor or his designee to come up with an amenable situation to cover that expense.
And Counselor LaForest, was there?
I had a question, but it was essentially Counselor Wilkinson's question that he just posed, and I guess, the reality is that this wouldn't account for a large number of property owners, so I don't know that it would be, a burden, but it would be nice, I guess, for the program to offer some remuneration to the municipalities.
I agree.
Counselor Cohen?
Hopefully, our values can go up in the city, and then we can give some nice raises, so.
Correct.
Fair point.
All right. We need to motion to move. What's that? I already did that, didn't I? Yes. So, all in favor of accepting this communication?
Aye.
Opposed? And we will move on to the actual motion. Paper number 11,673, an order authorizing the city to, don't sit down yet. An order authorizing the city to participate in the Massachusetts Property Assess Clean Energy PACE program. I need a motion to adopt the order.
Motion to
Motion
adopt.
to adopt.
Second.
We got a
Doesn't
tie.
matter. I got it. I got it.
And discussion from the council, I know we've discussed it, and if there's any other counselors, and then I'll move it to the public, if the public has heard any questions out there. And I guess I have one question. Mayor, after hearing the questions and comments from the council, do you have anything different to say or new to add to your opinion? I mean,
No, I think that the concerns are well expressed, and this is why we bring these things forward, and I think this is why this is the mechanism that was chosen for entering into this program, was to provide an opportunity for a thorough, thoughtful, constructive vetting. I would say that the word that I would have used, which has been used several times, is this is an option. This is one more tool in the economic development toolkit for the community, and the structure of the loans as presented, that the need for this to be a net positive investment does sort of counterbalance the concerns against a predatory lending rate. And as far as the administrative costs, I haven't gone in depth with the treasurer, but I have spoken with her about this program, and she was, supportive, and she thought it was a good idea. And again, the number of line items that will need to be added to bills and the administrative load is relatively minimal and within capacity.
do you recall or know, are there any other programs currently through the city where payments are made to the city like this for any kind of properties? I don't think.
I think there could be other betterment liens, but it would not a program like this where it's a state program and we have this sort of pass-through remittance obligation. So that would be a new a new mechanism.
Again, I know I personally was involved with my first home I bought through a first-time home buyer's loan, which did involve the Community Development Office going back 30-something years ago. And I believe my payment then, though, it was a Main Street bank. However, a year later, the bank sold the mortgage to a Boston bank. So just because it starts local doesn't mean it stays local. And I also had my first business loan was through the North Adams Community Development Corporation, and that was also through the city, but it was a combination of local lenders. And I know that now that check did go through the Community Development Corporation, but again was through a local lender. At this point, any other discussion? Not hearing any. We need this looks like a roll call vote.
Buddington,
Yes.
Cohen,
Yes.
Harpen,
Yes.
Hopkins,
Yes.
LaForest,
Yes.
Lamb,
Yes.
Moran,
Yes.
Wilkinson,
No.
Bona.
Yes.
We have 8 ayes, motion carries.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
All right, back to our beginning of the agenda. Paper number 11,648, communication submitted by Councilor Harpen and Lamb requesting that the city council work with the mayor's office regarding domestic violence. First, I wanted to thank you for coming and answering.
And I appreciate the questions and thoughtful debate, and I'm so appreciative that you allowed me to go to the dairy garden. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks. See you.
You should bring us something back.
Not for you.
I guess not.
Comedy night at City Council. All right, let's see. So this was in City Council, January 23rd, 2018. We voted to refer to the mayor's office and voted to refer to public safety. I need a motion to file the communication.
Motion?
Second?
Harpen, is it Harpen?
Cohen.
Horrible. And let's see.
Signs.
And then right when you little flags.
Move to the mayor's communication. Mayor.
Thank you. You received the letter in January, and in response to that letter, I will outline a few of the actions that have been taken to date. I immediately engaged several local human service agencies, including the Elizabeth Freeman Center, the Northern Berkshire Community Coalition, and the Northern Berkshire United Way, and asked them to put together a meeting on the subject of domestic violence and resources and systems that exist in North Adams and across the community to address this issue and to provide support to survivors of domestic violence. The result of that was a coalition forum held on Friday, March 18th, Understanding and Responding to Relational and Domestic Violence. Included with your materials was a summary from the Community Coalition's coalition newsletter about that program. And that program itself was a follow-up to a meeting that the Public Safety Committee held on February 13th, which initiated a conversation among members of the council, the North Adams Police Department, and the North Adams Public Schools health care providers and community members. As noted in the communication, the theme that was dominant in these conversations was that domestic violence intersects with other issues, including poverty, mental health, and substance abuse, among others, and that creates an opportunity for ongoing coordination and collaboration among the providers, the city services, including our public safety and the schools, both of whom were represented in both of the conversations I referenced, and then greater communication and resources across the community at large. Really, with the city in a supporting role to the provider community that has the expertise in delivering those services, in understanding those intersections, in having the training to deliver on those. There were, coming out of these conversations, several follow-up activities identified, including programming in connection with National Domestic Violence Awareness Month in October, which we're still working on developing, discussion of a city presence at the Elizabeth Freeman Center's actual annual Walk a Mile in Her Shoes awareness event in September, as well as a second coalition forum, which is being organized for that month. So again, as noted in the communication, I appreciate the council's advocacy around this issue, which is a critical one for our community. And as with the council, I share your support for the survivors of domestic violence, as well as for those agencies and providers that do have the expertise and capacity to provide the necessary services and support. And this is an ongoing initiative that we'll be continuing to work on.
All right, without objection, I'll file the communication. Did you?
No, I was going to say, because we had a motion and a second on the communication, do we have to vote on that first?
Yes,
And then
we
we,
did.
the first communication for me and Councilor
Yes,
Harpen?
yes. So go ahead, discuss.
No.
No, for the first communication, we
Do
just
you
need
want,
to
and all in favor
vote
on
to
that?
file that.
Yeah.
And then we'll talk about what the mayor just said.
Then it's the mayor's pay.
Yes, okay. Well, we still need an all in favor.
Of the first one.
Right, yes. So all in favor of your
Filing the
communication, filing your communication, yes.
Aye.
Opposed, papers filed. Yes.
Now, so I wanted to reiterate and thank the mayor actually for all the work that he's done with us and with other organizations throughout the community over the last few months with this. It's obviously an ongoing project's not the right word. It's an ongoing initiative that we need to continue to be working on. Another tangible item that came out of the forum specifically is interest in a men's group, specifically an anti-domestic violence men's group that's been starting to coalesce. So we had our first meeting 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. Councilor Harpen was there.
Yeah.
I've lost track of time.
It was probably,
But
it was June.
it's going to be an ongoing group, and it's something that's open to anybody in the community in Northern Berkshire that wants to engage. And so there will be some actions and programming that comes out of that group, and it's working directly with the Elizabeth Freeman Center. But that is one area where there was a notable gap in the community in terms of that being something that would be of use. And the mayor was also at that meeting as well. And so I think that that's something just to put on folks' radar if it's something that you're interested in and able to participate in. I think, as we noted when we first brought the communication forward, this is a community initiative. It needs to be coming from, it's not just a leadership stepping in and fixing everything. This is a community stepping up to the bench and engaging in this so that we can tackle it full bore. So I just wanted to, again, thank the mayor and say that we're going to keep on working on this in a continual way.
Okay, Councilor Cohen and then Councilor Harpen.
I went to an April meeting at the Kids Place, and I was compelled by a seminar that I had gone to with Dr. Lorna Grandy. She's from the Haven program, and she works with animals, and she found a very significant correlation between animal abuse and domestic violence. And I just want to make sure that we are including Dr. Lorna Grandy, because I know that she did want to make sure that she was invited to meetings and that she was included in emails, and that we are keeping the dog officer also included in those conversations as well, so that we can try to track some trends with violence in animals.
That's a great point.
Yes, go ahead, Councilor Harpen.
Yeah, I just had a few things, and thank you for that. That's a great point, and we will certainly bring that up for the next coalition meeting. That's going to be in October.
Okay.
So great point, and again, I just want to reiterate what Councilor Lamb had said. I want to thank everybody. I think the whole council has been involved in this. And also a lot of agencies in Northern Berkshire, so I want to thank them all for participating and getting people aware. I also just want to mention, again, since we are talking about domestic violence, it's a good time to bring up that the Elizabeth Freeman Center does have a 24-hour toll-free hotline. I am looking at their website page here, and it says, we offer free and confidential counseling, shelter, legal advocacy, safety planning, teen dating violence, prevention education, and a 24/7 hotline. Each year, we reach over 5,000 people from almost every city, town, and hamlet in Berkshire County, and we know we are only scratching the surface. So there are people that are available to help 24/7. And the phone number is 866-401-2425. I just wanted to mention that. And I also, kind of really want to keep the domestic violence, sexual assault issue kind of in the air in the community, and I think a good way to do that, I know all the agencies are working very diligently about this and trying to make awareness, but I thought that a good connection between the agencies and the city could be the Human Service Commission that the city has. So I'm probably going to approach them. I don't know if Councilor Lamb would like to approach them with me as well, or any other counselor, and just encourage them to maybe be the catalyst for the city, or the connection between the agencies and the city of North Adams, and maybe making, helping with projects and awareness and, any other things that, I know they have the Walking in Our Shoes program, and just, trying to get more people involved and that type of thing. So that would be my next step, is along with working with the coalition for the October meeting.
Any other counselors? Okay. We did already vote to file the communication, so we did a little backwards, but.
This is the second communication, isn't it?
What's that? Well, there was the mayor's communication. So you did, first one was paper number
Yes.
11,648, which was your letter,
Yep.
which we passed. And then the mayor already talked about his letter, so, which we filed without objection. Okay? Any other discussion on that?
No.
What's that? You all set?
Yeah, I'm all set.
Okay.
I think there's,
Did anyone in the audience want to speak on that paper? Go ahead.
My name is Ashley Shade, 33 North Church Street. As a member of the Human Services Commission, I can't speak for anybody else on the commission, but I think that is something that would be very relevant for us to work on, and I personally would like to be involved.
Thank you. Anyone else from the audience? Not hearing any other, we will file that communication.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Just a procedural matter as we make the transition. I appreciate accommodating Ms. Cowan. I had suggested in our earlier exchange an additional adjustment, and I'd just like to put that forward again if you're amenable.
Sorry, say that again?
To bring the other paper forward, so to the other person who's.
We can do that.
Which one did he want?
Let's see, hold on. I've got to see which paper number that is.
Which paper? Is it really?
676. Mr. Smithers?
Oh, that's just the one that's going to go to planning
Yeah.
board. That's 676, 11,676.
He's all the way at the end. You would have been here all night.
I didn't realize he was going to.
That's right. Yeah, without objection, I will move paper number 11,676 up to now. And I just got to get to my right paper here. Gotta be all the way back
All the way
here.
back. It's all the way back. Should be along.
Here we are. Paper number 11,676, a petition submitted by F. Sidney Smithers requesting to amend the North Adams zoning map to be rezoned to CC-1. A motion to refer to the planning board.
So moved?
Second.
Buddington and Wilkinson.
No, it was me.
Lamb and
God.
Wilkinson. I got it. I'm way ahead of you.
All right, I'm not even going to repeat the names. And let's see. Mr. Smithers, do you want to get up and?
I have nothing to add.
Oops, sorry. Just you do have to speak at the mic though. Name and address for the record.
I'm Sid Smithers. I'm an attorney with Kane, Hibbert & Myers. We represent the Beyond Place, which is going to develop a hotel called Tourists on Route 2. They have acquired a number of parcels of land on both sides of the Hoosick River, south of Massachusetts Avenue and north of Route 2, which they wish to have rezoned CC1. We don't propose to change all the land in the city to CC1, just that particular parcel, those particular parcels. And we submitted a petition signed by the landowners who have acquired the property and/or who have given easements to the developer, the city of North Adams being one of those. We're requesting that this be referred to the planning board for a public hearing. We hope there will be a joint public hearing with the city council and that it will move along for action in due course.
Any discussion from councilors? Yes, Councilor Buddington. Councilor Buddington, Wilkinson, did you have yours?
Sure, why not?
Wilkinson, and then LaForest. Go ahead, buddy.
This communication didn't come with any explanation for why we would want to make this change. Could you please explain?
It is a landowner's right under the Zoning Act to seek to have its land rezoned, and the landowner seeks to have its land rezoned, CC1, to accommodate the uses that they hope to make of the land in furtherance of their hotel project.
Okay, but may I?
Go ahead.
There are a lot of parcels involved in this. It's more than the footprint of the tourist hotel.
There are a
And
number of
it's-
parcels that they have acquired.
And it seems to me there are a lot of uses, there are a lot of changes that this causes in the allowed uses, even between, say, CA1 versus CC1. I'm curious why CC1, why these parcels, what are the expected uses that require this change that are not currently allowed?
If I may interject, I mean, I don't, if they were sending this to the planning board and it does go to public hearing, I mean, that can also be a time for those questions too. So, I mean, right now, the request is to have this go to planning board. But I mean, you can ask, but I'm
I'm flexible, I just
reminding
figured it's best to get the questions out early rather than late.
you. Go ahead.
The proponents of the hotel project have looked at the North Adams zoning ordinance and have determined that the CC1 zone district affords the greatest flexibility in terms of accommodating their plans to develop a hotel with some features that are not common in North Adams, such as, for example, tent platforms and yurts and other things that they want to do. They've acquired land along the river, hoping to make it an environmentally attractive place to accommodate and to use the water, put canoes in, kayaks, and so forth. And this zone district affords the best chance. All of the uses, major uses, are by special permit, and that's fine. We just wanted to have one zone district in which to accommodate the entire hotel project. That's the reason for the requested zone change. I expect to have the principals attend the public hearing with the planning board.
Councilor Wilkinson?
Yeah. Maybe to help answer Councilor Buddington's question, you're not allowed to do what's called spot zoning. So you can't pick one property and say, okay, I'm going to change this. It has to be a rather large area in order to be able to change a zoning of an area. As a real estate appraiser, I deal with concept of highest and best use. And this area that we're talking about is presently zoned residential 2, so it has very limited use. For a good part of it, it's zoned residential 2. I checked the map before I came. There has been a movement to change this area from zoning from R2 to some commercial, probably about the last 10 years, but nobody's actually come across and just said, I want to do it. I tried to do it 15 years ago and got approval for it, but the project that we were working on did not see fruition, so the zoning never got done. But we were doing exactly the same thing. So I'm very familiar with what could be there and how it would affect the area. We did some extensive research on that. Obviously, the planning board is the one that has to make the decision on this, but again, highest and best use is to have some commercial zoning there.
It will come back to the city council after there's a planning board public hearing.
Councilor LaForest?
So I guess this doesn't fall under spot zoning? The area is sufficiently
We're seeking to
large?
expand an existing CC1 zone district. We're not spotting it, we're making it grow like an amoeba.
Okay, so one area of this entire
already
parcel
zoned
is already
CC1.
zoned CC1?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Buddington?
From my research online, from the, I think there was state maps, some of the large parcels are I-1 and I-2 zones, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Blackington Mill, for example, is I-2.
Any other questions from the council? Questions from the audience? Not hearing any. This was a motion to refer to the planning board. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
All right. Map 2. Paper number 11,646-B. An ordinance amending Chapter Z of the revised ordinance of the City of North Adams, licensed marijuana establishment, Section 10.12. In City Council, May 22nd, 2018. Voted to pass to a second reading and publish as required by law. We need a motion to adopt.
Move to adopt?
Second?
And discussion from the council. Not hearing any from the council. Discussion from the public. This is a roll call vote.
Buddington,
Yes.
Cohen,
Yes.
Harpin,
Yes.
Hopkins,
Yes.
LaForest,
Yes.
Lamb,
Yes.
Moran,
Yes.
Wilkinson,
Yes.
Bona.
Yes.
We have 9 yeas, motion carries.
Motion carries. Paper number 11,652-1, an ordinance amending Chapter Z entitled Zoning Appendix A entitled Use Regulation Schedule, Principal Uses 52 and 54. This was in City Council May 22nd, 2018. We voted to pass to a second reading and publish as required by law as amended. And we need a motion to adopt.
So moved.
Okay, second?
And discussion from council. Not hearing any from council. Discussion from the public. No discussion. This is also a roll call vote.
Buddington,
Yes.
Cohen,
Yes.
Harpin,
Yes.
Hopkins,
Yes.
LaForest.
Yes.
Lamb,
Yes.
Moran,
Yes.
Wilkinson.
Yes.
Bona.
Yes.
We have 9 yeas, motion carries.
Motion carries. Paper number 11,653-A, Mayor's Communication Number 34, presenting the FY 2019 budget. Without objection, we'll file the communication. And Mayor.
Thank you. I'll begin the conversation by admitting to 2 errors. The first is your communication. The second paragraph references a $40,772,185 budget, which should have been $40,722,185. That was a typo in the communication and nowhere else in the budget. So that's just for clarification. However, prior to the meeting, I believe Mr. Canales gave you an amended version of the budget recap, and that is because with thanks to Councilor Harpin, who read the budget very carefully, we identified an $827 variance in the budget, a variance of 2.031 ten-thousandths of a percentage point in the budget related to the salary of the Director of Public Safety as it was presented, and that was a formula error in our spreadsheet. So what you have in your packet that Mr. Canales handed out was a revised budget summary. So that will be the document against which I will give the next part of the report. I'm all set? Okay, great. But it's not projecting cleanly. It's not allowed. Okay, much better. With apologies to those with their back to the screen, I will just walk you through how we got to this point. The budget process began in January with the development of the budget with my team. January through March, we brought the draft forward to the council, and it was referred to Finance Committee on March 28th. The Finance Committee reviewed the budget and the classification and compensation plans over 4 meetings in April and May. including a budget recap on the 31st of May. That is the information that is presented to you today. And I want to acknowledge the work of, first of all, my team in City Hall. The budget that you have is revision, I believe, 40 or 41 since mid-January when we started our internal modeling of the budget, and it's just different variations and different iterations. And I want to thank particularly the Finance Committee, but all members of the council and the members of the community who came to the hearings and heard the presentations and asked, good probing questions about the budget. So tonight you have the budget in front of you, as well as the classification and compensation plans available for first reading, with the anticipation that those would be brought back at the next meeting. So the amended material that you have today is a budget of $40,721,358, representing an increase of $765,603 from fiscal year 2018, or 1.92%. As the committee knows and others may remember, we began the budget discussions with a budget gap of about $114,000 and closed it through several adjustments, and I'll identify two of the most significant in those. Because our labor contracts are settled, we reduced the reserve account for labor that we usually use to fund labor contracts by $40,000. And the other line item that we reduced was the estimated veterans benefit. We brought that in line with actuals. So we're still $50,000 above our veterans obligation for this year, but we reduced the line item. And that's not a reduction in benefit. That's not a reduction of 1 penny in service to our veterans. That's just a bringing that budget line a little closer to what we're actually paying, but giving ourselves plenty of room if there are additional charges against that. Some other highlights of the budget. The budget was balanced this year with no use of reserve accounts. In FY18, we brought forward about $115,000 in reserves. The budget does not include rate increases in water, sewer, or the transfer station. We saw a slight decrease in health insurance premium costs. The budget as presented reflects a level service budget for the North Adams Public Schools. That means that we have funded every position that was in the budget this year. We have not lost a position through the budget process. And Dr. Malkus is here. I want to acknowledge the work of the school department as well as the school committee in giving this budget a careful review and a careful vetting. And then the last piece, and this is also on the education side, is that while our assessment for McCann went up slightly, the McCann School Committee brought forward a budget that did not increase per pupil cost. So our slight increase in the McCann line is due to enrollment and not to an increase in cost. And I want to acknowledge the work of that school committee and Superintendent Brosnan in this work as well. In the area of city personnel, the budget funds all negotiated contract increases. We're in the second year of a 3-year contract cycle. We're going into the second year of a 3-year contract cycle. The budget accounts for all step and longevity increases and includes a 1% increase for non-unit staff. The impact on headcount, the budget reflects an increase for the tourism director position from a 0.75 to a 1 FTE position, moving that position to full-time. It does include a temporary clerical position in the city clerk office as requested by the council, as well as an additional half FTE principal clerk in the treasurer and collector's office. So if we look ahead, this really, and this is something that has been brought to this council in the past, and we started our budget process with as well. This really is a maintenance budget. We did our best to hold the line on everything that we could. This is not a budget where we're making big investments in personnel, in facilities, and in infrastructure. So that we're really seeing limited investment, but we are anticipating some new revenues that may come online, but that we can't count affirmatively in the budget this year. So we expect to close Cumberland Farms in, I believe, the second quarter of FY '19. We're finalizing the language on a couple of the RFPs that you've asked for to get those out on the street, and have heard interest in several of those from, in a couple of cases, more than one party. So there's an anticipation of revenue there. And then we will close out FY '18 at the next meeting. We will be able to do that with free cash without tapping into reserves. So again, this is part of the maintenance cycle. And then looking ahead, again, just a real quick look at the crystal ball for FY 2020. We do have debt coming off, which is going to allow us to do some reinvestment, as well as to consider some additional new revenue opportunities in the future. So that's the context against which we bring forward the budget that is in front of you, and request your consideration of adoption. Thank you.
We will move on to paper number 11,653-A, an order appropriating the sum of, does this number need to be changed, right?
Not yet.
Not yet. Oh, that's right, we didn't amend.
Haven't amended
The sum of $40,700,000.
Please.
An order appropriating the sum of $40,772,185 to be raised by taxation FY 2019. We will, excuse me?
That was the original amount.
You haven't amended it
We haven't
yet.
amended it yet, yes. And we will move to the Finance Committee report, please.
We should go adopt this.
Oh, the motion to,
We're going to do the finance
Motion to
first.
amend? To.
oh, no, we don't get to that after.
Okay.
So we
We want to do the finance.
wanted to do the finance, that's what we, yeah. So Finance Committee report, please.
The Finance Committee met 4 different times, and each time the meetings lasted about 2 hours. I want to acknowledge the other members of the Finance Committee, because people may not know. It's Councilor Harpen and Councilor Lamb, who I have to thank at this point for their dedication, because they were long. A lot of time was put in. There was a lot of hard questions asked, and I must admit, we got a lot of very reasonable answers. So the whole process of the budget was well vetted. The first meeting we had, the mayor presented his preliminary budget, and during the subsequent meetings, and at that meeting, we had the mayor's finance team, which was Mike Canales and Dave Fierro, as well as all the department heads were called in, and they each gave us a rundown of what each department was needing for their budget. The interesting part about it was we learned, and I'm sorry that more counselors didn't go, we learned so much about the operation of each individual department. Things that you wouldn't normally hear or read in the transcript or the Eagle or something like that. People came forward, and departments had actually told us what they do for a living, what they needed. This is something that we just don't ever hear. So I found that part, even though their meetings were long, they were very, very interesting and very, very educational. So it was an excellent team that the mayor put together. We got all the information that we wanted. As I said, we went through each department individually. There was back and forth. The budget was changed, and the mayor alluded to that numerous times during that whole process. We came in every day with a new sheet going, okay, this is what we're going to be talking about tonight. Oh, my numbers are all different, but that was a good thing, because the Finance Committee was able to talk with the financial team, and it was, as I say, back and forth. Things changed, and I think that the budget that you're about to discuss and maybe vote on is really the best of all worlds. It's very, very lean. There's no extra there. We can't, as a council, add to the budget, but we can take away. There's nothing to take away. I mean, you can look at this as long as you want. There's nothing to take away. So I think it's very, very good. So at this point, I would like to say that we did vote at the last meeting at the end on what we wanted to do with the budget, and it was a unanimous decision. And I know this number is going to be wrong because it's going to be amended, but the Finance Committee does recommend appropriating $40,722,185, excuse me, for the total North Adams city budget, and we're referring this back to the full council for the ratification if so desired. Thank you.
Motion to accept the finance report.
So moved?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Now we need a motion to adopt the budget, and
So move, if I can.
Wilkinson and Lamb. Okay. And we will go through the budget at this time.
Okay, I'm going to ask for some help along the way. What we're going to do is read what we determined to be the approved amount that we thought was relevant to the total budget. So I'm going to ask members of the Finance Committee to read some of these in the categories that we go through. Yes?
Just a point of information, what are you reading off of? Are you reading off of the handout, or?
Well, personally, I'm reading off of the actual budget that was installed with your papers, okay? If you look at page number 5, at the bottom, it's a recapitulation, I can't talk, by category. And these were the general sections that we went through during each meeting. In the case of this, general government, public safety, public services, that kind of things, we looked at each one individually, line by line. That's why it was time-consuming. This is a recap sheet, but these is what the Finance Committee is recommending to the full council. So I'm going to ask Councilor...
Hold on, sorry.
Sorry?
Just clarify, they're working off of this one, and they'll amend as
Correct,
they get to
right.
them.
So you were handed an amended version, however, we're working right now off of the original version.
And then you'll amend when you
So
get to
when we get to those changes, we'll be making amendments.
Okay.
Okay?
I'm sorry,
We're working off the original budget, not the amended one that was handed to us tonight.
right, we are working off the original
Correct,
budget.
yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
Right.
So we're $800 up,
but you'll amend
Yes.
it when you get to it.
but we will amend it when we get to it. That's correct. All right, so shall we begin? Councilor Harpen?
Sure. Okay, number 1, general government is $1,303,976.
What's that?
They're not gonna
Oh, they're
read
not
the way
reading
you
this
talked.
one? Oh,
No, we had talked.
I'm sorry?
about them read it.
this is not the way you're doing, which paper?
So you're just doing the
We're
general,
fine.
you're just
Sorry.
doing generalization of it?
We're doing a recap. I mean,
You're just gonna read the recap sheet,
yeah,
but you gotta go
you
in.
don't need to know what every police officer makes. We'll be
It's
here
not.
we'll be here
No,
to 2
it's
in the
not.
morning.
No, look, did you
But-
see that one?
Yeah,
But
but I
then
wasn't
you
prepared with
have
that
to,
one. I was
yeah, but you
prepared
have to
with this
go
one.
in here, they have to go in here and amend it.
Right, because we're gonna
We can't
need,
do it that
we
way.
can't do it your way, or we're not gonna be able to amend that
You gotta
one.
amend the line items that need to be
Well,
changed.
we're going to amend one line item, correct?
Yeah, I can
the
do
end.
it in the next one because it's in public safety. Okay.
Counselor Harpen.
So the general government, again, number 1 is $1,303,976. Public safety,
This is, this is what we called on, when you called an hour ago before the meeting. This, normally, I mean, we can do it this way, but we're really summarizing one figure for the whole budget, which,
Right.
while we don't break it down to each police officer, but if you look at that sheet that was, see that highlighted sheet, Marie?
yes,
Up here?
yes.
That's typically how we've done it in the
Okay,
past.
I can do that.
And then
mean-
then they
That's
make
how you
them-
want to do it.
Because then when we get to that one line item, but, I mean, otherwise,
And then in the end,
this is just how we've done it in the past. I
It's,
don't,
yeah, it's a lot, but.
We'll do
yeah.
this any way you would like, Mr.
Yeah.
President.
and then in the end, when they get to this, they make a motion to,
correct. So,
Okay, so I'll start
Yeah.
all over.
yeah, sorry. Go
So
ahead.
number 1, in general government, administrative officer, department total, $70,967. Assessor, department total, $106,554. Auditor, department total, $98,811. Board of Appeals, $1,600. City clerk, $105,224. City council, $35,920. Election and registration, $17,190. Purchasing, $36,407. Law department, $46,000. License commission, $2,000. Mayor, $136,805. That's the department total. MIS, Information Systems, $303,774. Office of Tourism and Cultural Development, $66,146. Planning Board, $5,300. Traffic and Parking Control, $18,700. Treasurer and Collector, $251,078. Vital Statistics, $1,500. Total for general government is $1,303,976.
So we're going to move to adopt the budget, that budget for general government.
Motion to adopt?
Second.
And-
Oh, no, I'm sorry, motion, yes, motion to adopt.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion on general government? Any discussion from the public? Not hearing any. All in favor?
Aye.
Oops. On general, specifically general government?
Yes.
Okay.
But it's going to extend to...
Excuse me, name and address for the record, please.
All right, my name is Robert Smith, and I live at 140 Pleasant Street. Okay, I'm only up here, I came from New York. I'm up here now 17 months. My question is, I was in accounting most of my life, and I'm just curious where the budget it doesn't explain. What I want to know, what is the expenses we're talking about? What kind of expenses? This is a general amount for expenses, but what does it entail, basically? These are overhead expenses for operating each department?
So this is the summary line, I'm sorry.
Yes, this is just a summary.
This is the summary line for the departmental expense. There is a full budget that walks through the expense lines for each department. But this is the recap.
Okay, now, in reference to where it indicates salaries, how do we know how many people are working in each area?
Again, you have the summary, so that was discussed during the full budget, and when you look at the, budget, and again, you're right, it just says salaries, but this is the summary, so.
Right, now, in regards to salaries, does this include raises to each employee in each of the areas that are in this budget? Does it include raises?
Yes.
From last year?
This includes all negotiated collective bargaining increases for police, fire, public services, as well as a 1% increase for non-unit staff.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate that.
Okay.
Okay, we ready
Any
to move
other
on?
discussion? Is this?
We already voted.
Excuse me? Oh, we already voted. Thank you. Yep. We move on to public safety.
Okay, number 2, public safety. Public safety, department total $82,202. Building inspector, department total $261,475. Animal control, $41,924. Fire, $1,790,264. Health inspection services, department total $542,885. Police, department total $1,993,121. Public property and buildings, $173,207. Weights measures inspector is 0. Wire and alarm, $128,442. Total for public safety, this is the original, $5,013,520.
So we're going to need a motion to amend that figure.
I would make a motion to amend that by $815
Second. To the plus or to the minus?
to the minus,
Thank you.
and I would.
Yeah, actually, we got to amend the police department.
Okay, so I would move to amend $815 subtracted from the police department total.
Is this the new total?
This is it, 1 million.
So the new total will be $1,992,306.
Correct.
Second?
That is for the amending the amount, and then, can we amend both, the total and that?
Yeah, the total has
So
to be amended.
this
So
is
for-
amending both the total and the line item of the police department.
Right.
We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Okay, the amendment has been made.
Motion to adopt the total
Motion to
for
adopt
public
the
safety?
full police,
Motion to amend.
public safety.
Oh, it's already been
Second.
amended. Motion to adopt?
You got a second?
Okay,
Yep. And any discussion on the public safety budget? Any discussion from the public on public safety? Not hearing any, all in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Public safety is accepted. Now on to public services.
Okay, number 3, public service. Department total, $292,117. Airport, $20,350. Cemetery, $138,542. Council on Aging, $123,436. Engineering, $30,000. Highways, $1,031,728. Library, $349,423. Parks and Recreation, $125,675. Windsor Lake, $45,800.
Excuse me?
It was wrong number.
Oh. Which one?
77.
Parks and Recreation.
Parks and Recreation, $125,677.
Yes.
Okay. Windsor Lake, $45,800. Veterans Services, $659,811. Water Works Division, $425,780. Total for public services is $3,242,664.
Motion to accept the budget for public service.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Public service passes. School department.
School department, I'm going to take that one. Department total, $17,420,661.
Motion to accept the school department budget.
Motion to adopt?
Second.
All in favor, or discussion? Discussion from the audience? No? All in favor?
Aye.
One abstention.
Okay. And reason for abstention?
Family relation to the department.
Go ahead, next.
Do you want to do pension?
Yes, I will. Okay, pensions. I'm realizing that Counselor Harpen got the hard job tonight. Pensions, department total.
She's the freshman.
Yeah. So pensions department total, $2,813,381.
Need a motion to accept the pension budget?
Motion to adopt the department total?
Second.
Discussion? Any discussion from the audience? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Unclassified, total for unclassified, $8,110,348.
Motion to accept unclassified?
Amend it.
What's that?
There's an amendment.
Oh, we do have, yes, which one? We do have one amendment, so we need a motion to amend
City share, FICA.
the FICA city share
Motion to amend FICA city share,
to the amount of...
104,450?
No.
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 From to 104,438, which is less $12.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? Yes.
I just wanted to mention for people that may be watching and wondering, what's unclassified? Unclassified is a group of items that we couldn't fit in anywhere else, so it's under unclassified. Things like medical insurance, life insurance, labor negotiations, Memorial Day, tree warden, sister city, all that kind of stuff that doesn't fit into any other category. That's why it's called unclassified, but it has a big number, 8,110,348. It's because it's all the little stuff that adds up to the big stuff. So just wanted to make that comment.
We do, we actually do need to amend the total figure also, so, need a motion to amend the total figure to $8,110,336.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on that amendment? Not hearing any. All in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
Aye.
Now we need a motion to accept the budget for unclassified.
Motion to accept?
Second.
And any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries for unclassified. Next.
Capital expenses, a total of $775,000.
Motion to approve capital.
Motion to approve total for
Second.
capital expenses.
Second from Counselor Lamb. Any discussion? Discussion from the audience?
Yeah, I have.
Sure.
Again, it's Robert Smith, 140 Pleasant Street. What makes up the capital amount?
I will refer you to the mayor.
Right, sir, Mr. Mayor?
The capital account includes items such as electricity, natural gas, our communication lines, office supplies, gas and oil, road paving, any demolition that we have, although there's nothing in that line for this year. So those are the categories of items.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
And motion to, sorry, we did that.
Debt?
Did we approve capital yet, though?
No.
No, we didn't approve it. So, yeah, I need a motion, I need, all in favor, sorry.
Aye.
Oppose. And capital expenses. Next.
Retirement of debt.
Interest?
Oh, interest, we could do that one too. Let's do interest first. So it sounds better than debt. In the event, interest, $363,294.
Need a motion to accept?
So moved.
Second.
And discussion? Discussion from the audience? Not hearing any. All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Interest is accepted.
Then we'll move on to debt. Retirement of debt. It's a good number. $1,679,341.
Motion to accept.
Motion to accept the total for debt.
Second.
Discussion? Discussion from audience? Not hearing any. All in favor?
Aye.
Next.
Well,
Oh, the recap.
next is the total.
Yep. Yes.
You're going to have to amend this amount, but the amount that
We are.
presently on the table is $40,722,185.
Motion to accept? Sorry,
Motion to amend.
Motion to amend the public safety line to 5 million,
40. Oh,
excuse,
We already did those
You need
two
the total.
lines.
yeah, this is in the
This is the
recap.
recap sheet.
Yeah, this is in the recap sheet, so this is for public safety, 5,012,705,000.
Motion to amend.
And second.
Any discussion? Discussion from the public? Not hearing any. All in favor of that amendment?
Aye.
Aye.
And now do we got another one? Oh, unclassified? No, we need to amend, and again, in the recap, even though we did it prior, the unclassified to $8,110,336. Need a motion?
Motion to amend?
Yep, Harpen
Second.
and LaForest. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So
You know
that
how
amendment.
You know how much fun it is to say $40,722,000? I'm sorry. It's just fun.
So now we are making a motion, we need to amend the total. Sorry, one more amendment. The total to $40,721,358.
Motion to amend? Second?
Any discussion on the total, the amendment? Nope. Not hearing any. All in favor?
Aye.
And now for the motion to accept the recap, or is this sort of the whole budget? This is,
They still got one more
whoops.
amendment.
We got one more amendment. Well, so, but do we approve the recap? We got to do that, approve the whole recap. So motion to accept the recap by category.
So move.
Second?
Alan, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Recap approved. Well, one last one, and is there an amendment on this one? Right here, right, the last one?
Yeah, it's right here.
Sorry, so we got two amendments under the summaries of the amount to raise appropriated, so
Real estate revenue changed.
we need the real estate revenue is to be amended to $17,520,225.
So
Motion,
moved.
okay, second.
All right. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And then the last amendment, again, to the total of the amount to be appropriated for operations is, the total amount to be raised is $40,721,358. Need a motion?
Motion to amend?
Second?
Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
That's amended, and now we need the final approval.
One more amendment.
What,
We
one
need to
more?
amend that little
Oh,
paragraph.
Sorry. The whole paragraph, so.
No, just the total.
Right, just the total in that paragraph
To read.
is, again, we're changing the number in the paragraph to, along with the text that sort of goes with
Right.
it, to $40,721,358.
Motion to amend?
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
We're done with amendments now? I don't think this was our worst. Remember the night of the amendments to the amendments? All right, so, now we need a motion to adopt
It's amended.
as amended. Motion to adopt and accept the budget as amended.
Motion to adopt as amended.
Second.
Any discussion? Yes.
I do. Why don't I just say one last time, because this will be the only time I can. Thank you very much to Counselor Harpen and Counselor Lamb for their due diligence in helping me wade through the first time of being chairman of the Finance Committee. I learned a few things along the way, and both of them were very helpful to me, and I couldn't have done it without them. I want to also thank the great finance team that the mayor put together, and there's more people on there that need to be accounted for, but I'm not going to go through the whole thing. I just say thank you because the meetings were long, they were a little tedious at times, but everybody helped everybody get through it. So that's where we are today, and so thank you to everybody.
Counselor Lamb.
I'm going to echo Councilor Wilkinson, but also thank him for running our meetings, and especially it was helpful to have everything sort of set in order. So between your work with the mayor and getting all those meetings on the books early on was extremely helpful in terms of scheduling to go through all of this. Made it easy to do our due diligence.
Thank you.
Ms. Counselor Harpen?
Yeah, I just want to reiterate what they said. Everybody really worked hard. There were a lot of good questions. There were a lot of good answers. There were amendments and changes and, a lot of shuffling of papers. And we worked really hard to get this budget out and checked and rechecked. So I feel confident in the budget. I just want to say, it's going up $765,000 about from last year. A lot of that is based on salaries. Salaries are contracted, so we're contracted to do that. Also, that involves when you increase your salaries, you're increasing your retirement as well. So as you increase your salary, you're making more money, and we're also contributing more to the retirement board. So that all goes kind of hand in hand. One of the questions I asked at the final meeting is, which I think is important for a homeowner, how is this going to affect me? What is going to happen to my taxes? So basically what the mayor and Mike had said was it's going to increase the average household $93. So that is based on a house that is appraised at about $138,000. So that's the increase to the average person. We didn't take any money from, or he didn't take any money from reserves or anything else. It's a balanced budget. So I just want to congratulate the mayor and his team for getting this budget out, and also the finance committee and all the other counselors that were involved, and the superintendents. There was a lot of hard work put into this, and it worked out great. So,
Just a slight correction, it's not to the average person, to the average household.
It's the average
Yeah,
household.
yeah.
Absolutely, right.
Makes a difference. Makes a difference, yes,
Assessed at $138,000,
Right,
right.
yeah. And Councilor LaForest?
I just wanted to say thank you to the members of the Finance Committee. I was able to attend each of the sessions that you held, and as a new counselor, it was very helpful to be able to go through and ask questions informally, to each of you and to the mayor and the department heads. There is no wiggle room in the budget. It's, it is what it is, and it's a slightly less than 2% increase, and, typically in finance and economics, we talk about a 2% increase really being a cut when you look at the, the increase in the costs of goods and services. So I think they're big numbers, but I think ultimately they're fair to, the taxpayers in the city.
Any other counselors? I'd like to say this is, I believe, my 19th budget that I've sat through, and there definitely have been some that were far more challenging. I want to thank, obviously, everyone who was involved in this one, but I do want to thank counselors who have been involved in the past years, especially the past several years when we've had some of the most challenging budgets in front of us, when the state has made some drastic cuts to our budget. And that's where the former administration, which many of the current administration's finance team are the same members, were probably sitting at their desk crying and pulling their hair out and trying to figure out what to do. And we've managed through that, and I think it is definitely has eased that transition for the current administration, because most of what I think we saw come forward was fairly flat and not a lot of drastic changes. That may change in the future, but right now, so I do give a lot of credit to the past administration and counselors who have got us to this point. But if you were sitting here during those cuts, the years the state made some major cuts, it was scary. It was scary, and not to say we're totally out of the water, but again, thank you, members, and. We have a roll call. Oh, is there any discussion from the audience?
My name again is Robert Smith. Live at 140 Pleasant Street. First, I want to thank the Finance Committee for all the hard work in getting this budget complete. Mayor Bernard for being involved with that as well, and all the council members who work so hard to keep our city viable financially. Now, again, I said I'm from New York, but I'm a community-minded person, and that's why I'm here, to support what goes on in what is now my city as well, okay, because I'm retiring up here. And I will say my son is going to be very happy when he hears the $93 figure for the house that I live in, which he and his wife own. And I just want to thank you all for all the hard work. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Smith, I just wanted to let you know there is, if at any time you need a copy of the full budget with all the details, they are available. It will be available. But if you want a copy, or it should be online, I'm thinking.
We'll get the couple of amendments here, and once we get the final, we'll put it up.
Right.
There's a page on the website that has the past several years' budget. This will get rolled right in there, and the level of detail, Mr. Smith, that you were asking about at the department level is contained in that.
Yeah, I would love to have that. Being in an account all my...
Excuse me, Mr. Smith. Sorry, unfortunately, you're not at the mic, so they can't hear you at home. But this really isn't for back and forth discussion.
Okay,
Last comment.
In reference to the detail of the budget, I would like a copy of that, or where to find it, where it would be available. And I thank you for that, Mayor Bernard, and everybody who's worked so hard on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion from the audience? Not hearing any, this is a roll call vote.
Floodington,
Yes.
Cohen,
Yes.
Harpin,
Yes.
Hopkins,
Yes.
LaForest,
Yes.
Lamb,
Yes.
Moran,
Yes.
Wilkinson,
Yes.
Bona,
Yes.
9 yeas, motion carries.
Motion carries. Budget is passed.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Just got to make sure I don't repeat something we've done. Mayor's Communication number 35, recommending a change to FY 2019 classification plan. Without objection, we'll file the communication, and Mayor.
Thank you. The classification plan for fiscal year 2019 includes 2 changes to lines. In the Community Development Office, the Special Projects Coordinator being reassigned from an S28 to an S27. And in the Public Building Division, our junior building custodian being changed from an S12 to an S22B. And those are both related to changes in scope of duty. Here. So this plan becomes effective July 1st, 2008, and remains in effect until July 30th, 2019, unless otherwise amended. So I would ask that it be.
And just to be clear, these changes are reflected in the budget.
These changes are reflected in the budget. Yes.
Thank you. Paper number 11,672, an ordinance amending Chapter 2, Section 2-27 of the revised ordinances, Schedule A, Classification Plan FY 2019. Motion to pass to a second reading and publish as a municipal bulletin.
So moved.
Second.
In LaForest. And discussion from the council. Discussion from the public. Not hearing any, we have a motion to pass to a second reading, or we need a motion to pass.
So move.
Oh, wait, sorry, we have the motion, sorry. We have a motion to pass to a second reading. All in favor?
Aye.
And oppose? Motion passes. Paper number 11,672-1, Mayor's Communication number 36, presenting the FY 2019 compensation plan, July 1st, 2018 through December 31st, 2018. Without objection, file the communication. Mayor.
Thank you. This is part 1 of 2 on the compensation plan. So the first part doing the first half of the fiscal year, the second part doing the second half of the fiscal year, and that's related to some particularities within the contracts that are negotiated. So the compensation plan, part 1, for July 1st to December 31st, includes the following negotiated increases: a 2% increase effective July 1 for police officers, as well as a 1% increase effective July 1 for firefighters, and a 1% increase effective July 1 for public service employees. Those employees will also be reflected with an additional 1% increase in the second half of the plan, and that's the reason the plan is split. And then finally, the non-union employees will receive a 1% increase effective July 1, so that's carried forward through the plan. I would just offer that, again, we talked about this during the budget process, the budget presentation, but these contractual increases for those departments were agreed upon. We're in the second year of a 3-year contract, and I really do appreciate the work of our union and non-unit employees. both through the negotiations, which, you know, I walked in with settled contracts, which was a gift, but also for their service to the city, its residents and visitors.
Paper number 11,672, or 72-1, an ordinance amending Chapter 2, Section 2-28A, Schedule B, Compensation Plan FY 2019, July 1st, 2018 through December 31st, 2018. Motion to pass to a second reading and publish as municipal bulletin.
So moved.
DeForest and Harpen. And discussion. Again, I would like to thank the current administration for bringing this forward, but also the past administration and counselors who have worked with the compensation plan. Again, going back several years, there were times we had contracts that were retro. I mean, they went years without being signed, so it's nice to see that we're ahead of the game at this point. Any other discussion? Not hearing any. This is all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Paper number 11,672-1A, Mayor's Communication number 37, presenting the FY 2019 compensation plan, January 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2019. Without objection, we'll file the communication.
Thank you, Mr. President. This, again, this reflects the additional 1% salary increases for the fire and Department of Public Service employees that take effect on January 1st of 2019, and carries forward consistently the schedule for the police and the non-unit employees. So this is just aligning the plan with the contract terms.
Paper number 11,672-1A, an ordinance amending Chapter 2, Section 2.2A, Schedule B, Compensation Plan FY 2019, January 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2019. Motion to pass to a second reading and publish as a municipal bulletin.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Any discussion from the public? Not hearing any. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I think I'm going to get you like buzzers with red lights.
Yeah, well,
That way when you
the X's.
you buzz in like a game show, I can tell who buzzed in first.
There you go.
There we go. Paper number 11,674, Mayor's Communication number 39, requesting an appropriation of $28,000 to support information technology review. Without objection, file the communication. Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. President. This is something I've really been working on since January, trying to understand the current and future technology needs and strategy for the city as we move forward. Where are we investing? Where are we underinvesting? Where do we need to be investing differently? I've had conversations with the MIS director, with finance staff, and other city staff. I've talked with the superintendent in the North Adams Public Schools and city residents and councilors about the state of technology and municipal technology in the city. The clear message is that we need a technology plan that balances the maintenance of current operation and investments in systems and in staff to be effective and responsive. And before we do have in the budget a position for a second MIS staff person. Before I fill that, before we put that position out on the street, I want to make sure that we are staffing that position in the right way to meet the needs we have currently and our projected future needs. And the other thing that's clear is when you're doing a study like this, it's good to have somebody from outside come in and give you a clean set of eyes. And so I've had the opportunity to get to know some of the staff from the Collins Institute at UMass Boston over the past few months, as well as to look at the study that they did for the city's capital improvement plan a couple years ago. And I have a high degree of confidence that they're a good partner. They've put together a solid plan for us to structure this engagement. It is it is an investment, but it's an investment that allows us to move forward with technology in a way that is strategic, for lack of a better word. And then what they're going to do is focus on really two main priorities. And first is review of our IT management operations and our deployment in city departments as well as in the North Adams Public Schools, and then develop some recommendations based on that analysis for improving the efficiency and effectiveness of IT, focusing on key applications, staffing, again, city-school collaboration. What are we maintaining in-house that we could move to a managed service agreement? What do we need to be upgrading on? Where do we need to be making these? And there are some capital opportunities that I know the MIS director has identified. But before we do those, I want to make sure that we're making the right investments. So Collins Center is going to do this for $28,000 and would request the council approve that appropriation to support that project.
Thank you. Paper number 11,674, an order appropriating the amount of $28,000 from municipal tech fund to general government miscellaneous expense, miscellaneous purchased. I need a motion to adopt the order.
Move to adopt.
Buddington?
Second.
Hopkins. And we need discussion. Yes, Councilor Buddington, and then Councilor LaForest.
As I've already communicated to the mayor, I very much appreciate this effort. I think that there's a lot that we can do I'm sure to simplify our IT setup. I know we have a lot of old systems, and I'm hopeful that this can, I realize not in this study, but eventually lead to better access to city information, to hopefully get it into more standard formats and get more of it published online.
Thank you. Councilor LaForest and Councilor Harpen.
So I'm actually going to vote against this, and I would like to explain why. So in the budget that we've just adopted, we have appropriated over $500,000 between the city and the school department to information technologies, including a new position in City Hall. And because this raised a red flag for me, I did take the opportunity to read some of the information technology reports that the Collins Institute generated for some other communities in the Commonwealth. And I found that most of their recommendations were common sense approaches to consolidating services and to upgrading existing systems. But specifically, what highlighted a concern for me was on page 1 of their approach. It says that the center does not recommend or identify specific vendors, products, or technical solutions. Some of the recommendations that were made in the report, particularly I read through the report for Ipswich, it said things like, you need redundant systems, or you need the MIS director to be in charge of all of the information technology for the city, or you need to merge systems so that one office or one person is responsible for information technology. And so I feel very confident in the people that we already have working for the city to determine what software upgrades we need. And I would rather see this $28,000 spent on, hardware, rewiring and upgrading software, which the Collins Institute says it won't indicate. So that's my thought, and it just seems to be contraindicated in the same session of this council to appropriate $500,000 for this effort, and then to have someone come in from the outside and say these are the common sense approaches consistent with technology in 2018 that you should be doing already. And I could read through some of these recommendations, but I don't know that that's necessary either.
Councilor Harpen.
Yes, I am tending to agree with Councilor LaForest. I agree, we just went through the budget, and we had given additional money for an IT director assistant. I don't think that's a position that's been held before. If it was for a very short time. So we really haven't had a lot of resources in the IT department in the past. So I think by bulking up in that department, it's going to help. And if you're bringing someone in that's new, that person is going to have a fresh set of eyes as well. So we're going to have the advantages of having someone that has the experience, and also having the advantage of someone new, fresh, coming in. So I think I would tend to agree we have to rely on the people that we have first. This $28,000, my thought, could, be for a local company that can work our northadams.com site, and bring that up to speed and easier to access and maneuver through. So I am going to agree with Councilor Forrest. I am going to vote against this, and I just want to, through the chair to the mayor, I would just like to ask if we have done an assessment like this in the past, and what the recommendations were.
We have done, not to my knowledge, or if we have, it's been so long that it's not relevant anymore. Again, the last engagement with the Collins Institute was the capital plan, and that basically looked at technology, but it was basically an inventory-based look at what we have. I would take a moment, if I may, to respond to the 2 points that were made.
Yes. Well, actually, Councilor Lamb maybe he has something, and then I don't know if that will. Do you want to make a comment?
Well, actually, I was torn. I am still torn, but I'm leaning in the same direction as Councilor Forrest and Councilor Harpen here. And I guess if the mayor is going to respond to some questions, there was just two that I sort of wanted to add to that. Sure. Specifically, why the Collins Institute, if there are other entities out there. We know that these reports have proven to be fairly commonsensical sorts of things that, I'm not going to downplay it to any particular degree, but do feel like with an outside person coming into a new position, that is an opportunity for some new blood in that department to think this through. And additionally, when we think about the priorities that the MIS director has on, we know that every department has their priorities. Where in the kind of level of priorities did this fall from their perspective? And are there other things that this $28,000 could potentially be used for that are kind of above that? So that was just, kind of echoing what they said, but then just a couple little pieces there as well.
Did you have something?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll let the councilors get their questions out, and then you can try to, if they're all questions or comments, so.
No, it's a question through the chair to the mayor. The present, I don't know what her title is, Kathy Wall. Okay, IT person. What's her opinion on this?
She has asked me on several occasions for a plan for information technology, and in putting that together, I believe we need a clear set of eyes from outside.
Thank you. I don't know if that answered my question, though.
Well, yeah. Well, again, we'll throw the questions out there, and then you can get them all at one. One that I have that could change the opinion on this, and it may, I don't know the answer, but often in the past, we've had to have consultants, we've had to have feasibility studies, we've had to have engineer studies, and by having those reports have allowed us then to apply for certain funding. And while, again, we could say what we know the problem is and what we could fix it ourselves, but there's certain grants and funding that require you to have an outside report. And I'm not sure if that will be the case, so I'll throw that at the mayor and he can let us know. But first, Councilor LaForest.
So I referred to this report, and I absolutely, I don't doubt, and I absolutely agree that we do need to upgrade. And it's not a question of spending the $28,000. It's just, I don't know if this is how we should spend the $28,000. And so if you'll indulge me, I would just like to share a couple of these reports. And again, keep in mind the sentence that I highlighted was the center does not recommend or identify specific vendors, products, or technical solutions. So for Ipswich, the Collins Institute, and I know they do very, very fine work in other areas, I'm just hesitant here. Key findings and recommendations are as follows, and there are 33. I won't read all 33 of them. So just as an example, number one, Ipswich is fortunate to have strong board and executive leadership in IT from the town, the school department, and the finance committee. That's their finding. I don't know if that's a $28,000 finding. Ipswich should outsource various parts of its IT operations and management. Again, there's no meat to this. The IT staff in the town and schools should be making full use of the Trackit Help Desk software. So that's obvious. If you're using software, you should be using the help desk if you run into problems. Ipswich needs to undertake a major review of its deployment of the Munis system. Okay, but they're not doing this for $28,000. Ipswich should consider decentralizing the Munis accounts payable and payroll applications. Elsewhere, they say that everything should be consolidated under the MIS director.
Councilor LaForce, so I think we get the point.
The point
Yeah,
is that
yeah.
it's all very basic and very common sense, recommendations.
Okay.
That's my only concern.
I'm just curious, was that a $28,000 report? Do you know what Ipswich paid?
I don't know,
Okay,
but this
all
is
right.
a Collins Center
Okay,
report
all right.
for information technology
All
review.
right, I just didn't know if we're comparing apples to apples, so.
I assume that's their set fee.
Yeah, okay. I think any other questions to throw at the mayor before he can answer? Okay, Mayor, I guess you're up.
Great. So I think I'm gonna sort of approach this from a couple of angles because this goes in a couple directions. Before I am prepared to hire a new person, I want to understand what I am hiring that person to do. And at present, my understanding is that this is a position that will provide maintenance of current effort, which is to say maintenance of our current portfolio of applications in the way that we currently support them, maintenance of a 23-year-old financial system without regard and reference to make what the path to investing in upgrading that is. Maintaining software systems in-house rather than with maintenance relationships with vendor systems because the curse of public administration, that's the way we've always done it. And we have numerous systems where we are looking at that's the way we've always done it. And we are looking down the barrel of some significant investments. And I would, before I staff up to do that, before I look at the potential of bringing the school department in and having two IT groups under one roof and the efficiencies that could come from that, I want to understand what we're doing. Collins is one of several. I am looking at them because we've worked with them before, quite honestly, and I know that there was a level of comfort with the work, or comfort and satisfaction with the work that they did, and I have confidence in having gotten to know them that they're credible. We can quibble about the bullet point level of the report and the substance beneath it. But it is an analysis of condition. I'm not necessarily looking for products and vendors. I'm interested in strategies, and what we need is a recommendation on what are the best strategies for moving us forward. Because if we bring in someone and we're just paying to continue to do what we're doing in a context where we did just spend time talking about the budget and how lean it is and how we want to be doing the best we can with that additional $92 per household per year, then if we have funding in our municipal technology fund that we can tap into to do a study, I'm supportive of doing it. I understand that there's a concern among the among the council, and I will respect the decision that you make on this. However, I am very concerned about the state of technology and our internal capacity while we tackle the day-to-day to also kickstart a conversation about strategy without some help.
Did that answer everybody's question, or? Yes? Mayor, you actually didn't, do you feel this report that we would get could be used in the future to, for getting other finance to fund? Because, I mean, we're talking about a system that could be, we're talking, what, several $100,000 probably, if we had to do the whole.
We've looked at a couple of the finance system, for example. We've looked at a couple options. One which is more expensive but has the benefit of being deployed in more of the communities in this area. So if we wanted to look at a back office, we need to be in the same camp, as well as a different system that's used in other communities that is less expensive. So it's really getting some guidance on those kind of trade-offs. So some of it is investment. Whether it would inform funding or not, I don't know. But I think we would be better with a strategic roadmap for technology, which we don't have right now.
I remember it was probably 4 years ago, 5 years ago, and I believe it was Councilor Buddington brought forward a proposal about wanting the city to do open check. Was it called open check?
Yeah,
something like that.
It was broadly more transparency.
Correct, but it was
finances.
basically, again, and at that time we were told, it's a great concept, but again, our whole computer system would have to be upgraded. And I think maybe that's why Councilor Buddington was happy to hear this, because again, it allows people to see actual, as budgets is being spent and things like that, the public can see that. And I don't know if that's part of this whole vision you see, The other thing is, I know if this would, Councilor Harpen talked a little bit about the website, and obviously I don't know if this includes, taking some of that and incorporating it in and upgrading our website. And I know there was discussion in the past about we tried to get funding and grants for making the website ADA compliant. And again, that's where I'm thinking, like, if there are these outside reports, sort of consultations that can be used in the future for some of that funding, usually they want to see reports and not just in-house opinions.
I don't know if it will make the conditions for funding, but what it will do is it will help to set the priorities. Councilor Buddington shared some of his thoughts, and this is really the enabling and the table setting to getting to some of those things. Whether this is the immediate path to open checkbook, I can't say that's one of the reasons you do a study, but it's the path to understanding where we are right now and where we want to be, what we should be managing in-house, what we should be having someone else take care of for us, whether we should be doing more cloud-based computing, whether we should be looking at a groupware for productivity. Just every piece of this we need to have a better sense than we do right now, and then we can really focus the effort of our current IT director. If we collaborate with the schools more, we can align those efforts, and then when we bring someone in, it's with a clear vision of what we want them to do to move technology forward.
Okay, Councilor Cohen, LaForest, and Lamb.
I was on the fence as well about this and listening to both sides of this story. I mean, I have to agree that it's probably a good idea to have an outsider come in. Increasing transparency for the municipality is going to be fabulous. I think that we definitely see that there are some changes that need to be done in terms of IT. My question to you, through the chair to the mayor, is this going to be something that we can, info technology changes every day, we all know that. Spending this amount of money, my concern is this something we're going to see 5 years down the road again? Or is it your first step to making the needed changes here in the city that, are going to be a road or a journey for info technology? Because I think that it's the way that we have to move anyways. Or are we going to need to do this again 5 years from now to see where we're at?
It's a good question. We need to make some investments in technology. Again, whether it's the finance system, we have storage that is approaching end of life. So there's this question of, do we continue to manage storage in-house? Do we go to a managed solution? What are the costs? What are the benefits? What are the risks of all of those things? It's doing a study, getting those recommendations that will guide how we invest in technology going forward. 5 years down the road, I don't know.
I guess what I'm trying to say is that I'm hoping that this initial investment is going to help train individuals here at the city level to be able to do this type of study on their own. Because I do agree that we do have staff here that should be able to look down the road and say, this is what we need. We probably will get a study with a lot of bullet points that are going to be common sense. I'm hoping that with a study like this, if we vote it, that we're going to also get some constructive criticism and a way for us to move forward. I trust that you've done your research. I haven't done the extensive research that Councilor LaForest did, but I do have some concerns that it's going to be something that we all could get our heads together and come up with as well. But bringing somebody from the outside is probably a good idea.
Yeah.
Councilor LaForest, and then Rose Lamb.
Okay, so I just want to reiterate, and then I won't comment again. Just in this conversation here, we've all identified problems such as infrastructure updates, software updates, and 2018 realities, such as the mayor indicated using the cloud and using sharing services. So I feel like we already know what we need to do, and this report is essentially just going to tell us what we already know. So I don't know if this is something that we need to discuss more in committee, or if we're adamant on voting on it tonight. I know we need to spend the money to upgrade what we have and what we need to do going forward. That's not the issue. The issue, to me is we're voting on something that I'm not sure we fully understand. No one else, I'm guessing, and I didn't read through this word for word. I looked at the summary, I looked at the conclusion, I looked at their bullet points. We've already appropriated $500,000 for information technology tonight, and now we're looking at appropriating another $28,000 for something we've already spent a big chunk of change on. So,
Councilor Lamb and Councilor Wilkinson.
So actually, I'm sort of on the same kind of vein as Councilor LaForest. I've been going back and forth just in the conversation tonight. I walked in pretty thinking that I was going to vote against this. I'm really, after your answers to the questions that we posed, I'm a little bit more leaning towards a positive, and that's why I'm wondering if this going to committee is not a bad idea, just to get do a little bit of a deeper dive in our due diligence on our own part. Things that I hadn't necessarily automatically thought of was, using this as a strategization point for that new position that we're bringing in. I think, in my head, I was operating under the assumption that this person was going to be hired, and then this would be working after that person was already here. But if we're thinking about it in more of a building up to that position, knowing what they're going to be doing. We do know that the day-to-day is difficult for any of our departments. Technology is one of those ones where it becomes a heavier lift as the technology gets more antiquated. And so I can understand that does make sense. Things that I would really hope would come out of something like this, whether it does go to committee, it goes to the Collins Institute or someone else, whatever the case might be, is really, if there are bullet points, that there's a prioritization of those points, and it's not just, here are the things that you should do at some point in time in some way, shape, or form. Just a laundry list of items is not useful. I mean, it ends up as a dusty report on a shelf, and we have thousands of those that happen in communities, and it's just a waste of taxpayer money in that case. So I would say if, whatever we do decide on, if we do end up going with something like this, there needs to be a prioritization of those actual points. But I am thinking, as Councilor LaForest mentioned, that this may make sense to go to committee.
Councilor Wilkinson and Councilor Buddington.
I'm going to have to say ditto. When I walked in, I was undecided. And then after listening to Councilor Forrest, I was thinking, you know what? That sounds pretty darn reasonable. So I kind of led in one direction. Then I heard the mayor speak, and what he was saying was pretty darn reasonable. So I kind of went in the other direction. So right now I'm back on the fence again, and I think there's enough questions here, obviously, tonight. This thing needs to go to committee so it can be properly vetted and everybody can come back with a clearer understanding of what this money is going to be spent on. And I recommend it go to the committee.
Councilor Buddington?
I don't object to it going to committee. I would like to add in that I took a quick look at that Ipswich report, and I share your disdain at the bullet points. But there are some useful details buried in the text of it about redundancy of the fiber network. I am not entirely sure it's worth $28,000, but I think there's some valid analysis. The things that I don't know about our city's network that I would really, I think for starters, just to get the groundwork, the topology of our networks. We have some really interesting wireless and fiber links around town. How our backup is done, I think it's at Drury now. The transfer station computer has got to be something interesting, because I think that's been there forever. The clerk's office has, I believe, separate state and city computers, right? And I don't put this forward as action points that need to be dealt with, but context that the city needs to have. And keeping in mind that since we're working with such old technology now, whatever we invest in next, we're going to be stuck with probably for a good long time.
Any other councilors? Right at the moment, there is a motion to adopt the order. Mayor, how timely is this?
We can wait on it. They're ready to go within 2 weeks of an approval. So it will affect sort of the timing of some IT projects that I would like to hold pending a study, but it is not time sensitive in that sense. May I
go ahead?
I want to just offer sort of two quick responses as this goes to committee.
Well, you haven't said that yet.
In the anticipation that this may go to committee, the first is that the product and the process both need to be understood in this, and even if the report itself is you're reacting to it in that way. It's the process that I'm interested in. It's those interviews. It's them coming in. It's doing the kickoff meeting. It's talking to people. It's getting a sense, helping us get a sense of the lay of the land. Because you said, Councilor LaForest, that we have the expertise in house. I'm not convinced that we do. We have a good IT team, but I think we need, for moving forward, that fresh set of eyes. And then in terms of the prioritization of the bullet points that Councilor Lamb suggested, I think anyone who's been on the receiving end of my editing process will attest that it will not be a random assortment of bullets, but that there will be some strategy with it, or it will not be a report that is even brought forward for acceptance and review.
Fair enough.
I will I would support this as is. I will support it if the council feels it wants to go to committee. Part of my opinion is based on that the mayor has his administration that he oversees, and actually we just heard him on what he felt, his opinion. We're saying we have an IT department that is capable of doing this, and yet it's not our staff. So we don't quite know exactly the day-to-day of what's going on. That we do have an IT department. We have a system that is somewhat antiquated, and we have people that are comfortable with an antiquated system. So it's something that we know we need to do an upgrade. But I personally feel like if the mayor, if this is his staffing, what he sees going on, that he is a fresh set of eyes that has come into City Hall, and he sees what's in front of him. So by bringing this request forward, and by his familiarity with the Collins, I feel like he wouldn't have brought this forward to us to get, again, a basic bullet list of you need to get a better computer system. So I would support it for that reason, because I feel he's seeing something that we aren't seeing at this point close up. And I think you even said your MIS director welcomes this to a point, right?
She's asked for a plan so that we can,
correct,
so that we can go forward, so that we can staff up,
right,
so that we can move forward.
So she's asked for a plan versus formulating a plan. So obviously she wants that assistance. So that's why I support this. But at this moment, we have a motion to adopt the order. We can vote on that, and it can either pass or fail, or that motion can be rescinded and we can send it to committee. I'm not sure which committee would be best. I mean, it's a finance. We don't really have a committee that specifically deals with tech, so I would send it to Finance Committee as it's a budget item. But that's listener recommendations. Any recommendations from councilors? Go ahead.
My thought is, initially was Finance Committee, but maybe the Public Services Committee sort of deals with many of the departments. Well, we're all educated and use computers, so I think any committee could think through this and hold a hearing. And I would just want to say that this is not a concern about the mayor's ability to administer his team. If he asked me for $500,000 to rewire City Hall and upgrade software, I would say yes. And so maybe it seems silly to quibble over $28,000 after we've talked about $40 million, and I sit here and say I would approve $500,000 to upgrade wiring and software. It's not it at all. I think the mayor already knows on some level, and I'm not speaking for him, what needs to be done, and that's conversations with vendors about which software we need to buy, and conversations with people who will provide technical solutions that the Collins Institute says right here in their prospectus that they're not going to offer. So I can't actually make the motion unless the initial one is rescinded, correct?
We can vote on it, and it can pass or fail. And if it fails, we can move it to.
If it fails, it's done.
What's that?
If it fails, it's done. You have to rescind the motion.
So we'd have to rescind the motion. Yeah. So if it fails, it cannot come back for a year in the current format in writing that's there. So if the council, I'm getting the feeling the council would rather go to more discussion on this and probably go to committee. So who made the original motion?
Councilor Buddington.
Councilor Buddington. So it's in your.
I'm willing to rescind my motion in favor of referring to committee.
Okay. And do we need who seconded it?
Hopkins.
Hopkins.
Rescind my second, thank you.
Okay. So currently there is no motion on the floor, and do I hear a motion to send this to?
I'm going to motion that we send this to Public Services Committee.
Services?
I'll second that.
Okay. Motion to send to Public Services. So we got a second. Any discussion from the council? Yes.
If it is reasonable, I'd appreciate it if the mayor could provide us with a list of whatever's available of our IT assets, what software we're using, what network things. I realize it could be a long list, but just whatever summary is available.
Any discussion from the audience? No one? Oh, yes, go ahead.
Yes, Brian Sapienza, 113 Pleasant Street. One thing I haven't heard that I'd like to see the committee address regarding upgrades of our IT systems is cybersecurity. How secure are our fiber networks? How secure are our radio networks or whatever else we use in the city? I would like to see that addressed as well. I know I haven't heard it mentioned, but it is a very important part of any upgrades to any computer or IT system. Thank you.
Yes, name and address for the record.
Robert Smith, 140 Pleasant Street. I agree to an extent with the idea that the mayor would need this money to upgrade the systems. It's a good idea. I think Councilperson Cohen mentioned New Eyes might be a good idea for our city right now. In reference to Councilman LaForest, yes, you talked about the Collins Institute, but there are other institutes that may give you other information other than what they give you. So I don't agree with, holding this up, especially when the budget was such an exorbitant amount dollar-wise. What's another $28 or $28,000, which would help the mayor have a perfect IT system for the city? And that's what I wanted to point out. I would agree with Mayor Bernard on this. Thank you.
Thank you. So right now we have a motion to, we need a date return on this.
Not my motion.
Oh, that's right, you made the motion. Add a date. I mean, I
Well,
guess part
it's
of
not-
it is.
I'm not the committee chairperson, so I guess we'd have to have a meeting.
I think it's Moran.
I mean, I think it's.
It is. It's Josh.
Notice he didn't say a thing about.
Second meeting in July or something.
Yeah, I would
So
say
we either, I mean, again, Mayor, how soon would you like this back? I'm guessing sooner than later?
Sooner than later, and I'll work with the committee chair to make sure that I'm available.
Oops.
Is there the option of, if for example, a rep from Collins could come out?
I can
or,
ask.
And maybe
Let's get
give
the-
some
let's get the
more?
meeting
Because it seems
scheduled.
like the questions that are coming are, what is this report we're going to get?
That's reasonable. I'll ask them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Also, on that vein, what are the software programs we should be moving to in terms of upgrades? I presume
Well, if they give you
They're
too
not going
much
to tell you that till
information,
they get paid the money.
Yeah.
No, I understand, but they're, yeah, right. I mean, I understand that's not part of this, but I guess that's part of a bigger conversation.
So we're waiting for a date here?
Why don't we shoot for the first meeting in July?
It's fine with me.
Council
that work?
meeting in July.
Okay, so there's a motion on the floor to send this to public service with a return date of the first meeting July
10th.
July 10th. Any other discussion? This is a roll call vote. I mean, no, this is a, all in favor. It's getting.
Aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carries. We're not done, people.
I feel done.
It's only 10 o'clock.
That's right. Let's see. Paper number 11,675, report of the ad hoc committee for office of the city clerk submitted by Councilor Hopkins.
Counselor Harpin's going to read for me tonight.
Yes, Councilor Hopkins has lost his voice.
I was on the committee with the counselor, so I am more than happy to read his report. And this is the report of the ad hoc committee on the city clerk's office. The ad hoc committee voted unanimously on Wednesday, May 16th, to recommend that a third position of clerk be posted and filled for part of calendar 2018, with the expectation that the appointee would move into the assistant clerk's position in January 2019. City Clerk Gomo, under this proposal, would stay on in a part-time basis for the first few months of 2019 to offer her support. This structure offers a level of continuity and preserves institutional knowledge. We have since learned that any positions within the city clerk's office other than the city clerk and assistant clerk are under the authority of the mayor's office. The city clerk's office will work with the mayor's office to develop a job description and fill that post.
So that's the report. Motion to accept the report.
Motion to accept.
Discussion. And so at this point, I've had discussions with the mayor, and the mayor will be working with the city clerk's office and figuring out timeline and positions. And what's to be understood is that while the mayor's office has authority over that position, once January 1st comes, that position then does, as the positions move up, if that clerk or senior clerk moves into an assistant clerk, then it falls under our, the city clerks actually, what do I want to say? The city clerk appoints, not appoints.
Recommends.
Recommends to the council who they want as an assistant clerk. So it's wise, obviously, to work ahead and have someone in there that the future city clerk may want to work with. Otherwise, it'll just change January 1st. So hopefully everyone gets along and we come up with a good solution. Councilor LaForest?
Just a quick question. So Mrs. Gummo, the current city clerk, is moving into the part-time position or the assistant clerk position through the end of the year?
Well, that is still to be decided.
No, I'm staying till my term runs out.
Right.
No,
Yes,
my term runs out January 25th. That's when I will be
right.
no longer the city clerk.
But after that, how her hours are to be determined, like as a part-time or not.
After I retire.
If we're nice to her.
Yeah, that's not part of this.
We let her retire.
Right. So I guess my question is, the mayor's office is hiring for the assistant clerk position or the part-time position?
Officially, it would be a senior clerk.
Okay.
So there's
For calendar 2018.
Yeah, okay.
because if it would be starting this year, it'd be the idea is to have someone come in, start getting trained and familiar with the position.
Okay.
So when the city clerk retires in January, the assistant city clerk would move up to the city clerk's position, and then the senior clerk moves into the assistant clerk's position. But right now, the city council does not have authority over any positions other than the city clerk and the assistant clerk.
Right.
I mean, the city clerk's position, office at one time had 5 employees, but 3 of them were hired by the mayor's office.
Okay.
So, okay. And that's the, any other discussion on the report? Motion to accept the report, or we already did that. All in favor of accepting the report?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Did that one, like when we already did them. I feel like I'm missing one here. All right, committee reports. I bet you even if you have them, you don't want to say them. It's too late. Community events. Any other community events from the public? The only one I have to announce is this Saturday, the North Adams Elks is having their Elk on the Trail ceremony. It is Saturday at 1 p.m. This is when you drive by every season, every year, you'll notice there's a bunch of wreaths around the Elk on the Trail. That is a ceremony where all the Elks lodges come from across the state, and that is a war memorial. That is a Veterans War Memorial up there, so that is what that is celebrating. That is at 1 o'clock. It is open to the public, and then everyone goes down to the Elks after for a buffet lunch. And I will be there, and actually this year our guest speaker will be Mr. Urban. So, any other events? Open forum. Anyone want to speak in open forum? Yes, Mr. Smith, name and address for the record again. You got 2 minutes.
Okay, Robert Smith, 140 Pleasant Street. I've been looking into information regarding my city, which is now North Adams, and something came up on one of my email messages regarding a case that's still pending that happened in 2016 here in the city. And it involved a resident of the city and our police department. And I think you all are aware of what's going on with this case. The resident of the city claimed that the police department roughed him up and is suing the police department for several $1 million. Now, that raised a concern for me because I'm figuring after we went through this budget tonight and all the money that's involved with the budget, if this becomes a trend in our city and this person wins the case, I really don't know what happened there between the police department and the person. But if he wins the case, this could be a precedent for going forward where the city could, I know there's insurance involved to a certain amount of money that the city would be covered for, but we could be facing losses of large amounts of money if this becomes a trend, if he wins this case. And I just wanted to bring this forward to the mayor and to the city council, that this is something that we should keep in mind. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else want to speak in open forum? Not hearing any other mayor's concerns.
Great, thank you. I'm going to begin with several notes of thanks. I kind of laid off at the end of the budget when the committee spoke, but I do want to reiterate what was said after you, I should say, voted on the budget. I want to thank everyone involved again for what was a very good process. Again, I'll start with my finance team, which, as the president noted, I inherited, and that was a gift to me, stepping into this role to have a veteran team that has been incredibly thoughtful in doing that work. I want to thank Councilor Wilkinson, Councilor Lamb, and Councilor Harpin, who were the committee and were the core of this process of deliberation throughout the process. I want to thank the department heads who did come and answered questions, helped to clarify the points of the budget. I want to thank all the members of the council who came to hearings. I want to thank the community members who were there as well. There were several folks who hit pretty much every meeting, and we ended up with a very good product out of that, and we're in a good position to close out 2018. We'll bring that forward to you in the next meeting and be able to start off 2019 on very good footing. I want to thank the council tonight for some really deep, thoughtful, challenging deliberation on the issues that were brought forward. The budget, the PACE discussion, the IT study. I appreciate the questions. I appreciate the pushback, the consideration, the fiscal responsibility behind it all. And I'm really grateful to you all for the questions, the comments, and where we've moved with both of those points. A couple of larger updates on the community level. Charter Spectrum. I'm working with our cable attorney on the exact terms of the violations that we want to bring forward to them, both the issues of notification as well as the failure to complete the installation of fiber lines that are included in the contract. We are 3 years on to the date in the contract where those were supposed to be done, and we have not received anything but vague promises and chagrined statements when we've had public meetings. So we're really going to push on that. I know there's a great deal of concern about the fact that the company pulled Channel 5 last week and pulled access to local news and information related to our state. Now, part of that is we're disadvantaged by FCC requirements, but I'm going to continue working in a coordinated way with elected state and local officials on this. I think everyone knows that our state delegation, led by Rep. Barrett, put forward a petition on that issue that Senator Markey has filed legislation on a market adjustment. I've spoken with his staff, with Senator Warren's staff, with Congressman Neal's staff, and they all understand this issue from a local level. Mayor Tyre and I have met with the State Department of Telecom and Cable because we're all in this same boat together in the Berkshires as it relates to this, and being border communities being disadvantaged by this peculiarity of the FCC law, which doesn't recognize state boundaries. And then just this week, I met with the Attorney General's new Western Mass person, and the first thing that she brought up was this. So the AG's office is hearing this, they're aware of it, and I know that Representative Barrett is working with Dina in that office to organize some hearings or some public meetings to gather additional customer complaints. While we're on the subject of legal issues, I would note that for public employees, municipal employees, we have a conflict of interest seminar scheduled for next Tuesday, June 19th, 3:30 to 5. I'll send out a confirmation on this, but we're going to shift the location upstairs to the second floor conference room. It's just a little more amenable to presentation than doing it in chambers. And we've got the chief of the AG's office, Public Education and Communication Division, who's going to do this. It's just going to be a good refresher on the conflict of interest for public employees. If you haven't signed up, there's still room, and you can just let Michelle in my office know, and we'll add you to the list. Last week, I attended a press conference in West Springfield at which Western Massachusetts mayors announced our participation in the lawsuit that has been filed against the opioid manufacturers, the drug companies, for redress of for their responsibility in this epidemic. You may know that Greenfield was the first community in Massachusetts to sign on a few years ago. There's about 100 communities in Massachusetts, cities and towns, that have done this, and there were five mayors who attended this press conference that Mayor Reichelt organized, and I was there on behalf of North Adams, and I was holding Mayor Tyre's proxy. She asked me to acknowledge their support for this as well. This is signing on to this. It's at a no-cost option. The recovery for the law firms is out of any settlement that may happen, and you know, there was a strong statement and a lot of anger among the mayors who were there, including myself, about the issues that overprescription and overprovision of prescription opioids by the drug companies has conditioned in our communities. We see it in our community every day. We talked earlier about some other issues where we know that the issues of substance abuse play into issues of domestic violence. They play into issues of education, and they put a strain on our service agencies. They put a strain on our law enforcement, on our educators, on our clergy and others who are being asked to, carry and dispense Narcan, which is part of this. And so we're going to look at this and be part of this legal issue. And this point was brought home at the press conference because Mayor Reichelt had to begin the meeting by announcing an opioid death in his community. So this is something that I take seriously, that the Western Mass Mayors and our Mayors Association through Mass Municipal is working on. How about some good news? I want to congratulate the graduates of Drury High School, of McCann, and of BART, the students there, particularly our students in North Adams who graduated from those schools, and wish them all the best as they move forward. Tomorrow is Walk to School Day in the North Adams Public Schools, and I will be part of a walking school bus project for that. The weather's getting nicer, and that means a lot of activities happening in the community that I want to highlight. The Mayor's Fitness Challenge is ongoing. Thursday bike arounds are up and running. They begin at 6 o'clock from the St. Anthony lot. I'm going to catch those when I can. I will be at the farmers market doing something. I don't know what my marching orders are quite yet. This Saturday with Corey Nicholas from the North Adams Public Schools, the food service director. And then one of the things that I sort of shot my mouth off about in the fitness challenge was disc golf with the mayor. So we tried it a couple weeks ago, didn't get a lot of uptake on that. So it's this Friday, 5:30. If you want to watch me embarrass myself, it's a good piece of the afternoon. While we're up at Windsor Lake, the Windsor Lake Concert Series is underway. Wednesdays at 6:30. We've got Trio Candela this week, which is a drumming group. Also underway is the Steeplecats season. And in addition to what's happening at Joe Wolf Field, I want to highlight 2 other initiatives related to the Steeplecats. The first of these is the Cub Club Literacy Partnership Program that they're doing in association with the North Adams Public Library. The other, you may have seen some of the activity taking place in the Sleepy's space on Main Street. And that is a project that the Steeplecats, the Collegiate Baseball League, some others in the community, Mass Mocha's pitched in on this. It's an exhibit called One Country, One Game, a celebration of baseball. I've had a chance to sort of poke around and see it in development. It is absolutely spectacular. It focuses on the history of baseball, and particularly through the lens of the Negro Leagues. There's some great art, some great artifacts, and that's going to be opening in the next several days. They're just finalizing the installation, and so look for an announcement on that. I know that the hope is to have it open by Father's Day. But that's great. Down Street Art kicks off on June 28th. And as part of that, there is a movie in Coal Grove Park. So if anybody hasn't seen Wizard of Oz in a while, that would be the time to see it. And with that, I will conclude my report, just with one more note of thanks to the council. Thank you.
Liaison updates or councilors' concerns? Yes, Councilor Lamb.
2 things. I just wanted to first off commend the mayor for signing on to the opioid lawsuit. I think that does make a very strong statement, and representing Mayor Tyre, I think, makes a statement for the Berkshires in that respect. So thank you for that. And then secondly, I just wanted to wish happy birthday to Councilor Harpin.
Thank you.
Any other councilors' concerns?
Oh,
And yes, Councilor Buddington.
I just wanted to mention, in case I didn't before, you'll find me less argumentative in July because I will be absent on vacation for both meetings.
Last but not all. All right. We have one license, RJ's Taxi for Raymond E. Foster, 140 Church Street, North Adams, Mass. Need a motion to grant the license.
Move to grant.
Second.
And any discussion? Discussion from the public? We have a motion to grant. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? License accepted. And I think we had, did I miss correspondence?
No.
No, it's the end.
Sorry. And we have one correspondence that you received from GPI. Did everyone get that?
Yes.
All right. And the motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.